Chapter 672. Xiao. However, there were two white figures that were even faster than them. Xiao Chun and Zhongli had arrived the instant the intense explosion occurred. The instant the intense explosion occurred, they both somersaulted and executed their exquisite movement techniques, dodging the shock wave and flying forward. Their figures shot out like arrows, tearing through the sky. The two of them chased after the fleeing lone wolf. When the two were about to reach the city gates, Lone Wolf suddenly stopped and turned around. Suddenly, his undamaged left hand transformed into a wolf claw and smashed at Zhongli. Zhongli, who was in hot pursuit, did not expect Lone Wolf to be so crafty. Despite fleeing in such a panic, Lone Wolf still dared to stop and fight. Zhongli quickly raised his saber and formed a screen of saber light filled with ice. However, the strength of Lone Wolf's transformed arm clearly surpassed that of a peak late-stage medial-grade martial monarch. The sharp claws tore through the screen of saber light and tore through Zhongli's protective quintessence. Then they left 5 horrifying claw marks on Zhongli's chest and knocked him back. Lone Wolf's horrifying strength was astonishing. It was not that Lone Wolf could not put up a fight. It was just that his arm was injured, and he did not want to take the risk. Lone Wolf's masked face revealed only a pair of scarlet eyes. After knocking back Zhongli, he turned around and the baleful aura in his eyes turned solid, heading toward Xiao Chun and entering Xiao Chun's sea of consciousness. Then Lone Wolf laughed maniacally and sent out a pitch-black quintessence palm with his left hand at Xiao Chun. It was like Lone Wolf was certain that, given Xiao Chun's cultivation, Xiao Chun would die without a doubt. After doing all this, Lone Wolf once again fled out of the city without looking back. The mental energy in Xiao Chun's sea of consciousness surged and roared. It shattered the various illusions of the other party's baleful aura, causing them to vanish. The baleful aura of loose cultivators, which made the sect disciples tremble in fear, was useless before Xiao Chun. A resplendent saber light lit up in the dark night. Xiao Chun held the lunar shadow saber and sent out a dense electric saber chi. The electric light exploded out and shattered the quintessence beast's claw flying at him. Zhongli, whose chest was injured, fell to the ground in a sorry state. When he saw this scene, he frowned slightly. An imperceptible cold light flashed in his eyes as he looked at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun's spiritual sense had been paying attention to Zhongli's expression. When he saw this scene, he seemed to understand something. Xiao Chun sheathed his saber. When he saw that Lone Wolf was not difficult to catch up to, he gave up on giving chase. Damn it, he escaped again. The rest of the troops caught up. When they saw that Lone Wolf was only a small black dot left, they all cursed. The somewhat pale Qiu Yi revealed a contemplative light in his eyes. He said, "Let's return to the inn first. Everyone should recuperate." On the rooftop, the original members of the team gathered together again. After checking, he found that several martial artists had suffered serious internal injuries and needed to recuperate for a long time. They would definitely not be able to fight for the next few days. Thus, the strength of the team had been weakened. This Lone Wolf is really crafty. If he does this every day, our team will be weakened again tomorrow. He has a half-face body. He recovers much faster than us. If this drags on, we will not be able to hold on. Everyone analyzed the results of the battle. They all felt somewhat dispirited. It looked like Lone Wolf's harassment over the past few days had greatly damaged their mental states. Zhuoping said, "I feel that this Lone Wolf is becoming more and more familiar with Qiu Yi's and my moves. It is like when we fought, he could see our attacks from every angle. It is getting easier for him to deal with our combined attacks. At the start, he did not have any spare energy to attack the others." Qiu Yi nodded and said, "I feel the same way. Perhaps his comprehension ability is astonishing. However, this is not the time to think about this. We do not have many chances left. Lone Wolf is extremely cautious. He will only appear for 5 days. Tomorrow is the last day. If we cannot take him down by then, he will disappear again." After saying that, Qiu Yi looked up at the silent Xiao Chun. He said, "Brother Xiao, I saw that you easily broke Lone Wolf's baleful aura. Do you have any good ideas?" Following Qiu Yi's reminder, everyone recalled Lone Wolf's baleful aura. Xiao Chun had not been affected at all. This person was definitely not as simple as he looked. Xiao Chun smiled gently and shrugged. I was just lucky. I do not have any good ideas. Ask Brother Zhongli. He sealed Lone Wolf with one saber strike. Zhongli smiled bitterly and said, that was also because young Master Qiu and Miss Shui delayed Lone Wolf. That was how I had the opportunity to seal Lone Wolf. Just look at the wound on my chest, and you will know the result. Seeing that the two were unwilling to say more, Qiu did not ask any further. He discussed the arrangements for tomorrow night before announcing that everyone should go back and rest. After the others left, Qiu said to Zhuoping, those two fellows are not simple. Qiu did not say their names, but Zhuoping knew who he was talking about. She smiled and said, I don't know whether they are simple or not. I only know that you are not simple. You have not even killed them, and you are already thinking of burning the bridge after crossing it. Qiu smiled unconcernedly and said, tomorrow is our last chance. The two of us cannot hold back anymore. We cannot give the two of them any chances. The moon hung high in the sky like a silver plate. After the huge battle, the night sky of Heavenly Water City returned to normal. Perhaps some of the cultivators in the city could sense the horrifying energy fluctuations from earlier. However, to this small city, cultivators at the level of Xiao Chen's group were not people they could come into contact with. Even if they knew, they would not dare to have any thoughts about it. If they were not careful, they might lose their lives. As for the ordinary citizens, they had already fallen asleep. To them, that was a distant world. It would be difficult for it to interact with their lives. The lamp in the guest room flickered. Xiao Chen did not cultivate, nor was he in the mood to sleep. He thought about what he had seen today, and came up with a vague answer in his heart. Xiao Chen searched the universe ring for a long time before he finally found what he was looking for. With a flip of his palm, half a piece of spirit wood appeared in his hand. The spirit wood was a branch of an ancient spirit tree, the Wutong tree. Xiao Chen vaguely remembered that he still had some spirit wood. Indeed, he had found it. Revealing a faint smile, Xiao Chen took out a carving knife and carefully carved the spirit wood, which was only half the length of his palm. The flickering light from the lamp illuminated Xiao Chen's delicate and fair face, making him look very focused. Bits and pieces of spirit wood fell with the rise and fall of the carving knife. However, these bits of wood did not turn into dust or soil like they usually did. Instead, they turned into motes of crystalline light that drifted into the guest room. The enchanting light was very bright and dazzling, making the simple guest room look like a dream. Xiao Chen was completely focused, not paying attention to his surroundings. In his eyes, there was only the wooden sculpture in his palm. His mind was calm, there was nothing else. When the wooden sculpture was completely formed, Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief. He felt incredibly dizzy, so he checked the mental energy in his sea of consciousness. Just a simple wooden sculpture had actually exhausted most of his mental energy. No wonder he felt even more tired than fighting. The wooden sculpture was of Xiao Chen himself. He wore white clothes and had a saber hanging at his waist. His eyes were intelligent and clear, like a miniature version of himself. Spirituality and temperament are sufficient. It still lacks a bit of life. Xiao Chen thought for a while, and sent a drop of essence blood into the wooden sculpture. In that instant, a spiritual light flashed in the wooden sculpture's eyes, and red blood flowed through its body. It was like real blood flowed through the blood vessels in its body. This wooden sculpture was no longer an inanimate object. Only at this moment did Xiao Chen reveal a satisfied smile. He looked around and discovered the dreamy motes of light in the room. He smiled gently and said, unexpectedly, after not practicing for a long time, my carving skills have improved. It looks like carving also tests one's mental state. For the sake of this small wooden sculpture, Xiao Chen had exhausted too much mental energy. He did not waste any more time, and circulated the purple thunder divine incantation to recover his mental energy. Xiao Chen only recovered his mental energy when the sky turned dark the next day. After making some preparations, he opened the door and met up with Qiu and the others. Hey, is that Brother Xiao? The moment Xiao Chen left the room, he ran into Zhongli, who was also going to the roof. The white-haired, white-robed Zhongli had already recovered from his injuries and looked very spirited. Xiao Chen turned around and smiled. Brother Zhongli, are you looking for me? Zhongli carefully sized up Xiao Chen. He felt that today's Xiaochun was somewhat different from yesterday. However, he could not pinpoint what was different. Zhongli collected his thoughts and smiled gently. It's fine. If I did not see wrong, Brother Zhao's saber strike last night should have grasped a perfect 40% comprehended saber intent. At such a young age, you already have such comprehension abilities. You are truly admirable. These words were not just flattery. Xiaochun looked like he was only 21 years old. In the Kunlun realm, where 30-odd years old were considered youths, 21 years old was considered very young. Xiaochun smiled faintly and said, "It is just a 40% comprehended saber intent. How can it compare to Brother Zhongli's perfect 50% comprehended saber intent? Furthermore, you have the state of ice that surpasses the limits." After one state reached the limits, it was extremely difficult to raise it to a will. If one wanted to increase the might of one's state, one had to think of other methods. The extreme insect's Wanfeng's secret technique and Xiaochun's immortal state of thunder were similar methods. Clearly, this Zhongli had grasped such a secret technique as well. A proud look flashed in Zhongli's eyes. He said, "I am just a few years older than you. We are both bladesmen. If there is a chance, we should exchange pointers with each other." "I would be delighted to. I have long wanted to exchange pointers with bladesmen of the same generation." Xiaochun replied calmly without changing his expression. When Zhongli saw Xiaochun's serious appearance, he felt some disdain in his heart. A perfect 50% comprehended saber intent was much stronger than a 40% comprehended saber intent. Zhongli's state and cultivation were both stronger than Xiaochun's. Did Xiaochun really think that he could compare to him? As the two spoke, they arrived at the rooftop. The peak inner sect disciple of the Full Moon Pavilion, Qiu Yi, and the peak inner sect disciple of the Thousand Mystery sect, Zhuoping, had been waiting there for a long time already. The moon was round on the 15th. Tonight's moon was indeed rounder and larger than the previous night. As the bright light shone down, it made heavenly Water City appear gentle and peaceful. No matter how beautiful the moon was, no one was in the mood to appreciate it. They all stood at the side lazily, resting for the final battle. Chapter 673. Seeing that everyone was present, Qiu said, "Tonight is our last chance. This is also Lone Wolf's last chance. I hope everyone will not hold back. Otherwise, you might lose your lives. Zhuoping and I have discussed it. We have decided that no matter who obtains the proof of completion, Lone Wolf's treasures will be given to everyone else." Right after Qiu spoke, the eyes of the others lit up. Someone immediately smiled and said, "That is good. Even if we do not obtain any contribution points, Lone Wolf's treasures will be more than enough to make up for our losses." This suggestion is pretty good. We agree. The others all agreed. They knew that with Zhuoping and Qiu working together, there was no chance for them to fish in troubled waters. If they could obtain Lone Wolf's treasures, they would make a huge profit. Qiu shifted his gaze to the silent Zhongli. He asked, "What does Brother Zhongli think?" Zhongli let out a meaningful chuckle and said, "I will obey young Master Qiu's orders." As for the silent Xiaochun, everyone ignored him. They believed that as an inferior grade martial monarch, he would not reject this suggestion. Good. In that case it is agreed. When Lone Wolf appears, we will not say anything and immediately use our killing moves. Qiu was in high spirits. He said in a magnificent manner, "We will kill Lone Wolf in one move, not giving him any chance to catch his breath. Kill Lone Wolf and split the treasures." Qiu's words roused everyone's morale. They wished that Lone Wolf would appear immediately and hack him to death. Bang! Bang! Just as the crowd was in a state of agitation, a hole was suddenly torn open on the roof above their heads. A giant hand fell down from the hole at lightning speed. With a schwa sound, it grabbed the head of the person who spoke. Then the hand swelled up before everyone's eyes and turned into a thick beast's claw. With a slap, the beast's claw lifted the warrior up, and the entire roof was torn off. The black-clothed and masked Lone Wolf, who exuded a baleful aura, had already stopped on the roof at some point in time. His injured arm had already recovered. "Are you saying that you want to kill me?" Lone Wolf laughed loudly. Then he used his hands to tear the captured person in half, causing blood and internal organs to fall out as the person screamed in fear. The sudden scene stunned everyone. They had thought that Lone Wolf would fly in through the city gates like he did a few days ago. Who would have thought that Lone Wolf would be so bold today? He had already stopped on the roof and waited for everyone. Their minds had already short-circuited in the first place. Now that they saw a person dismembered, the many horrified cultivators felt their minds go blank. Their earlier bold words had already vanished into thin air. Xiao. Taking advantage of the moment when everyone was stunned, Lone Wolf, whose arms had already turned into spirit fiends, descended at lightning speed. Amid the frenzied attacks, another 3 or 4 people died on the spot. Courting death. Surround him. Xiao Yi and Zhuo Ping reacted quickly. They shouted angrily and charged at Lone Wolf, who knew that Lone Wolf was not greedy. After killing a few people, he laughed loudly and punched through the wall, easily flying out. Chase. With their plan completely disrupted, Xiao Yi and Zhuo Ping could not care about anything else. They took the lead and gave chase. When the others recovered their wits from their shock, they cursed and quickly chased after Lone Wolf with their weapons in hand. Xiao Chun and Zhongli leaped up at the same time, following Lone Wolf. Under the full moon, Xiao Yi and Zhuo Ping still acted as the main force against Lone Wolf, whose arms had already turned into spirit fiends. Today, the two of them knew that this was their last chance. They did not hold back at all. Their quintessence surged as they executed all sorts of killing moves without holding back. Last night, Lone Wolf, who could still use both his hands, was forced into a corner and could only do his best to block. A ferocious glint flashed in the eyes of the remaining cultivators. They all made up their minds to fight this final battle. They pushed their cultivations to the limits and attacked Lone Wolf repeatedly. Loud sounds rang out continuously in the night sky. As the figures flickered, more wounds appeared on Lone Wolf's body. Several sect disciples were in an even more miserable state. Lone Wolf directly tore them in half with one swipe of his claws. However, no one retreated. Things had already reached this point. If anyone cowered, the advantage that Xiao Yi and the others held would immediately crumble. As Xiao Chun and Zhongli entered the battle, the situation in the air took a turn for the worse. Lone Wolf gradually found himself at a disadvantage. Lone Wolf roared, and his body swelled up several times. His black clothes tore apart as he completely turned into a spirit fiend. After Lone Wolf's body turned into a spirit fiend, his aura became even more ferocious. His scarlet eyes glared at a cultivator who tried to sneak attack him. A horrifying baleful aura turned into a mountain of corpses, a sea of blood, hell, and all sorts of negative emotions exploding in that cultivator's mind, causing him to become distracted. Pa! Lone Wolf laughed maniacally and threw a palm strike. The black palm wind was like the gigantic hand of a strange beast. With a loud bang, it mangled that cultivator, killing him on the spot. A ruthless look flashed in Xiao Yi's eyes. He said, "I was waiting for you to completely turn into a spirit fiend." Zhuo Ping, stop holding back. Zhuo Ping did not say anything. Her expression turned cold, but her aura became even more terrifying. Then, she withdrew her slender sword and sent out 9 strands of surging sword chi connected from head to tail. Each strand of sword chi created ripples in the air, capable of splitting mountains and rivers. The 9 swords merged into one, looking like a ferocious flood dragon bearing its fangs and claws as it charged at Lone Wolf. 3 sharp screeches came from Xiao Yi's body. Flames surrounded him and formed 3 glistening golden flaming birds. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that these 3 flaming birds were extraordinary. Every single flaming bird's charm contained an incomparably sharp sword intent. This allowed the flaming birds formed from quintessence to possess not only strong explosive power, but also unparalleled penetrative power. Boom! 2 killing moves that could rival inferior-grade heaven-ranked martial techniques struck Lone Wolf's transformed body with the help of quintessence. Attack! The other cultivators who had been storing up power did not wait for the shock waves of the explosions to scatter. They raised their auras to their limits and turned into beams of flowing light as they hacked down with their weapons. Bang! 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 Intense metallic clangs came from the shock waves. Each sound was like thunder, unending. No one in Heavenly Water City would be able to sleep tonight. Xiaochen looked carefully and discovered that Lone Wolf, who had already turned into a spirit fiend, was still very ferocious despite the attacks. Lone Wolf clashed head-on with Qiu Yi and Zhuo Ping's attacks. Occasionally he made a move, smashing some of the flies flying at him into a mangled mess. Xiaochen faced two sect disciples who were no weaker than him. Furthermore, there was a group of medial-grade martial monarchs interfering. Furthermore, Xiaochen's side suffered heavy casualties. They could not truly kill Lone Wolf. Just thinking about it was incredible. Unexpectedly, combat experience and the baleful aura accumulated from killing others had such a strong effect in a true battle. After pausing for a while, Xiaochen charged over again, joining the group surrounding Lone Wolf. The battle was extraordinarily arduous. When facing the completely transformed Lone Wolf, the group did not hold back at all. They expended their quintessence without holding anything back as they surrounded him. After attacking for a long time, frustration flashed in the ferocious Lone Wolf's eyes. He directly attacked and tore a hole in the encirclement, retreating out of the city. Chase. This time, we cannot let him escape. Even if we have to go to the ends of the world, we have to kill him. Qiu Yi shouted coldly and took the lead to chase after Lone Wolf. The others did not hesitate either. This was a rare opportunity. Naturally, they would not let it go. Xiaochen sheathed his saber and stood upright. As he watched the group of people leave, he did not give chase. All the more he felt that there was no need to. Zhongli, who did not give chase as well, arrived before Xiaochen. As he got closer, he smiled and asked, "Brother Xiao, are you not going to give chase?" Xiaochen shook his head and said, "There is no need." Pussy. Before he could finish speaking, the smile on Zhongli's face instantly disappeared. He was only 2 meters away from Qin Chao. The killing qi that Zhongli had been suppressing surged out. His right hand, which was on the saber hilt, sent out a saber light faster than lightning. With the support of the perfect 50% comprehended saber intent, the resplendent saber light was as bright as the sun. The full moon in the sky instantly lost its luster. The distance was too close, and Xiaochen was caught off guard. The moment Xiaochen placed his hand on the saber hilt, blood spurted out like an arrow, and his head fell to the ground. The eyes of the head floating in the air were wide open. It looked like Xiaochen had died with a remaining grievance. The headless body quickly fell to the ground. The eyes of the white-haired cultivator, Zhongli, glowed red, and he radiated killing qi. His originally scholarly aura vanished completely. He became as ferocious and berserk as a wild beast. Just one glance from him would cause others to tremble in fear. Zhongli's lips curled up in a cold smile as he looked indifferently at Xiaochen's headless corpse. He said in disdain, "With such little vigilance, he dared to fight with me. Serves him right to die." Zhongli looked meaningfully at Qiu Yi and the others, who were chasing after Lone Wolf. He smiled and said, "The sect disciples are still as gullible as before. Bring me to finish my business, and then we will deal with them." Everything was going according to plan. Zhongli was in a good mood. He had a sinister smile on his face as he quickly headed for the city lord's residence. "It has been a long time since I started a massacre. My baleful aura has stagnated." Zhongli stuck out his scarlet tongue and licked his chapped lips. He could not help but tremble, looking very evil. However, Zhongli did not notice that when Xiaochen's headless corpse landed on the ground, it kicked up a cloud of dust. When the dust settled, there was only a small, exquisite, headless wooden sculpture lying there quietly. Unable to contain his excitement, Zhongli moved very quickly. In a few breaths, he arrived at the gates of the city lord's residence. However, the strange thing was that there was not a single guard at the gates of the city lord's residence. This somewhat disappointed Zhongli, who was in a rush to drink blood. "There is no need to rush. There will be a chance later." Zhongli laughed cruelly. Then he sent out a beam of energy with his right palm and shattered the heavy gates. Zhongli strode in. The scene of panic that he imagined did not appear. The gates had been destroyed. Despite such a big matter, not a single cultivator from the city lord's residence came out. Sensing that something was wrong, Zhongli quickly walked forward. His expression turned increasingly unsightly. Unexpectedly, there was not a single person in the vast city lord's residence. Chapter 674. Under the illumination of the moonlight, this place appeared very cold and quiet. It did not make sense. Zhongli arrived at the great hall of the city lord's residence with some anticipation. However, he discovered that there was no one there. It was so empty that it made his heart go cold. Brother Zhongli, are you looking for someone? I have to tell you that I have already dismissed the people of the city lord's residence. Wait, that's not right. I should call you the great bandit lone wolf. Just as Zhongli was feeling confused, a white figure sat on the roof of the great hall. This person had a faint smile on his face as he looked at Zhongli. Even though Zhongli had killed countless people and was no longer afraid of anything, when he saw the white figure's appearance under the hazy moonlight, he was so frightened that he took a step back. Zhongli exclaimed in shock, "That's impossible. Didn't I just chop off your head? How can you be back here?" Xiao Chen stood up calmly. His white clothes had a faint moonlight on them, making him look elegant and refined, giving him an ethereal air. You are not the only one who knows that cloning technique. I know it as well. By now, Zhongli had already calmed down. He felt it was funny. He felt that he had overreacted. He smiled faintly and said, "So what? What do you think you can do? You are just letting me kill you again." "Nothing much. I just want to borrow your head." Xiao Chen raised the lunar shadow saber above his head and slowly drew it. The slender blade reflected the faint moonlight. When the saber was completely drawn, it gave off a resplendent light. A resonant dragon roar came from Xiao Chen's body as he leaped off the roof. The moon was bright like fire. Xiao Chen's figure created a huge purple arc in the night sky. In an instant, he arrived at Zhongli's side and hacked down with his saber. Suddenly, Zhongli felt the saber intent on the saber, and the immortal state of thunder contained in it. His expression changed greatly, and his heart thumped wildly. When Xiao Chen swung his saber, it was clear that Xiao Chen's saber intent had already reached a perfect 60% comprehended saber intent. It was already close to great perfection, much stronger than Zhongli's. The electric light leaping in the saber light contained an immortal intent. It was very different from a regular state of thunder and lightning. It could rival his state of ice, perhaps even surpass it. Zhongli's expression sank, and he drew his thick saber. He did not dare to be careless as he met Xiao Chen's saber strike from the side. A cold light surged on the saber radiance. Under the night sky, all the cold air seemed to have gathered on the saber radiance. Dang! When the sabers clashed, a loud clanging sound rang out. Waves of uncontrollable energy turned into strands of saber wind flying everywhere. Rumble! Rumble! The saber winds shattered the buildings in the city lord's residence. With just one move, everything within 500 meters turned into a mess. Xiao! A huge force entered Zhongli's body through the saber's edge. Zhongli retreated 100 meters as the lightning rampaged in his body. The lightning contained the will of immortality. It was extremely difficult to get rid of, giving one a headache. What shocked Zhongli even more was that Xiao Chen's quintessence was no weaker than his. It did not seem like Xiao Chen was just an inferior grade martial monarch. When Zhongli thought of this possibility, shock flashed in his eyes. Could it be that this fellow refined his quintessence before consuming the quintessence gathering pill as an inferior grade martial monarch? Even I, a half-face, could not endure such pain. Could it be that this person could? However, if that was not the case, Zhongli could not think of any other possibility. After pushing back Zhongli with one saber strike, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "Don't get careless. Otherwise, you will die a miserable death. I did not intend to kill you so easily. Since coming to this Kunlun realm, I have not had a proper exchange with a bladesman of the same generation. Don't disappoint me." The blue dragon image under Xiao Chen's feet circled around. Auspicious clouds floated around it as it carried Xiao Chen over to Zhongli's side. Dang! 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 Saber lights danced around. A perfect 60% comprehended saber intent infused with the immortal state of thunder supported Xiao Chen's aura as he launched a barrage of attacks. You are so young, but your tone is not small. Today, I will show you the true ability of a great bandit. Zhongli smiled coldly to himself. He did not think that Xiao Chen could force him to bow down to him with just this bit of ability. Suddenly, a scarlet light circulated around Zhongli's body. This light was made of pure baleful aura. Boundless anguished wails came from the light, and all sorts of aggrieved spirits appeared. These were not illusions. They truly existed. Among the aggrieved spirits were 70-year-old men, pregnant women, and newborn babies. These people's faces were all extremely distorted and indistinct. They looked cruel and heart-palpitating, not daring to look directly at them. The greatest difference between baleful aura and killing chi was that the people the former killed were filled with intense resentment. Only loose cultivators with extremely cruel hearts could do this. Most cultivators would kill others for their treasures as well. However, they would never attack ordinary people. This was the most basic principle. However, loose cultivators never cared about this. As a result, their killing chi would mutate into an even more horrifying baleful aura, 100 times more horrifying than killing chi. Zhongli smiled cruelly and said, "My baleful aura can scare ordinary people into idiots. Let's see how you block it." Within the Scarlet Sea, Zhongli sent out a scarlet, icy saber chi. The saber chi was like a pillar, and rings of scarlet clouds floated around it. In every scarlet cloud, there was a horrifying corpse screaming. At a glance, the scarlet clouds looked like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, vast and boundless. After clashing with Zhongli, Xiaochen retreated 100 meters and landed on a tall wall with a grave expression. He had not expected such a martial technique to completely infuse baleful aura into saber technique. The world of evil cultivators was an eye-opener for Xiaochen. However, it is just a small Dao in the end. Xiaochen held his saber and smiled coldly. He activated the ancient sovereign's bloodline in his body, and his vast aura became as heavy as a mountain. Vast, ancient, drawn out, noble, and inviolable. The ancient sovereign's aura surged out like a strong wind. It swept away all the scarlet light around the saber chi, leaving only that saber chi, blazing sun, burning to desolation. In the dark night, the slender lunar shadow saber gave off a saber light as bright as the blazing sun. Then, Xiaochen leaped down from the tall wall, while holding his saber. Bang! Under the moonlight, the might of the burning to desolation saber technique was inevitably reduced. It could only hold its own against the scarlet, icy saber chi. Explosions rang out endlessly, and a deep pit appeared in the ground. The two each took 100 steps back, and blood leaked out of the corners of their mouths. The blue dragon under Zhongli's feet spiraled around. Xiaochen shook his head slightly and said, "In the end, my cultivation is still lacking. If I advanced to medial grade martial monarch, this would not be the case." The shock in Zhongli's eyes was even more intense than Xiaochen's. Unexpectedly, Xiaochen broke the baleful aura that he was so proud of so easily. Fated person in autumn water. Without any hesitation, the instant Xiaochen landed, he charged over again. He turned into a gentle autumn wind, carrying a boundless saber light as he split the air in half. Damn it! Zhongli's aura, state, and saber intent were all inferior to Xiaochen's. Furthermore, his advantage in cultivation was not obvious. Zhongli could not gain an advantage over Xiaochen. A red light flickered in Zhongli's eyes as he lost his patience. He roared, and his body swelled up several times, ripping his clothes. Then he turned into a white wolf standing on its hind legs. Zhongli used an even denser saber chi to scatter the saber light, filled with the feeling of autumn. The werewolf's foot, which was filled with strength, spun around and left behind an afterimage as it arrived at Xiaochen's side. After Zhongli turned into a werewolf, his speed instantly increased by 20%. His sharp claws clawed at Xiaochen's head. Open! The acupoint on Zhongli's right foot opened. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Xiaochen quickly turned around and held his saber with both hands to block this claw. The claws were as hard as frost iron. Sparks flew as they rubbed against the saber, forcing Xiaochen back continuously. Pa! Zhongli layered his palms over each other. When his strength increased explosively, he knocked Xiaochen back. Ha ha! Let's see if you still dare to spout nonsense. This was the first time Zhongli obtained such a large advantage. He felt very carefree. He laughed maniacally and prepared to give chase. Roar! 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 However, just at this moment, 3 dragon roars came from Xiaochen's body. Aside from the blue dragon image under his feet, 2 more blue dragon images appeared around him. A blue dragon swung its tail. Instead of advancing, Xiaochen retreated. His saber light danced as he executed Cycle of Seasons. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, Cycle of Seasons, and all sorts of mysterious phenomena appeared. Cycle of Seasons? Zhongli's expression turned startled. With a flip of his hand, he took out his thick saber and pushed the quintessence infused with fiend energy to its limits. Scarlet snowflakes erupted from the saber. Bang! Using all the quintessence in his body, Zhongli's wolf claws cracked. Blood leaked out, and he felt incredible pain. However, he managed to block this saber strike. Dang! 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 Xiaochen rode on the 3 blue dragon images, catching up to the transformed Zhongli. Once again, the two engaged in an exceptionally arduous battle. Dark clouds covered the sky, completely blocking out the moonlight. 1 man and 1 wolf fought an intense battle in the vast city lord's residence. The aftershocks flattened many buildings. If not for Xiaochen sending away the unrelated people, who knew how many innocent lives would have died tonight. A huge battle was also taking place outside the city gates. Xiao Yi and Zhuoping led 10-odd medial-grade martial monarchs to surround the transformed lone wolf clone. Without caring about their quintessence consumption, they managed to gain the upper hand. As long as they dragged things out, lone wolf would die for sure. Xiao Yi checked the quintessence in his body and discovered that it was almost depleted. He shouted, "Everyone put in more effort. I will kill lone wolf soon. He is a bona fide great bandit." Far away, the battle between Xiaochen and Lone Wolf Zhongli was about to end. It was exceptionally crucial. Earlier, Lone Wolf had clashed head-on with Xiaochen's heaven-ranked martial technique, Blue Dragon Returns to the Sea. A horrifying wound appeared on Lone Wolf's chest. The wound extended all the way to Xiaochen's abdomen. Several bones broke and blood dripped down. However, even so, Lone Wolf was still incredibly tenacious. At the last moment, he counterattacked and even struck Xiaochen with his claw, causing him to vomit a mouthful of blood. The two of them panted heavily as they glared at each other fiercely. At this moment, they were competing with their willpower. Neither of them could relax at all. Sea of Lightning Saber Light. Xiaochen shook his head ferociously and took the initiative to attack. He quickly sent out 7 saber lights, which turned into 21 saber images and encased Zhongli. Dang! 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 Zhongli's eyes lit up. He dragged his injured body and blocked all 21 of Xiaochen's saber images. He even prepared to counterattack. Chapter 675. However, he did not know that the moment he executed the might of this saber strike, a sea of lightning suddenly formed and exploded on his body, blasting him into the air. Die. A strand of saber light flew out from somewhere in the sea of lightning. It was as fast as lightning, disappearing in a flash. The dark clouds scattered, and the full moon in the sky peeked out. The moonlight happened to illuminate this scene. A scarlet light shot out, and Lone Wolf's head flew off. Xiaochen reappeared and spun around. He sheathed his saber and caught the head. Seeing the headless corpse on the ground, Xiaochen's fatigued body heaved a sigh of relief. I finally killed him. Outside Heavenly Water City, Qiui watched as Lone Wolf slowly fell over. His anxious face relaxed, and he revealed a faint smile. The others panted heavily as well. They all had wounds on their bodies. As for their quintessence, they had already drained it long ago. They had consumed all the medicinal pills they could. Even if they had peak-grade medicinal pills, they would not be able to replenish their quintessence immediately. They had consumed too many medicinal pills in a short period of time, and developed a resistance to them. Xiao Yi sheathed his sword and looked at the similarly fatigued Zhuoping. He said, "Both of us exhausted ourselves today. After we recover tomorrow, we can decide who gets the proof of the mission. How about that?" Zhuoping nodded gently, and did not say anything. She did not have much quintessence in her body, and her condition had deteriorated significantly. Earlier, she had relied on her quintessence to fight Lone Wolf. Now that she relaxed, she no longer had any fighting spirit. She could only decide tomorrow. Everything was going according to plan. Qiu Yi smiled faintly and walked over to Lone Wolf's corpse, feeling very satisfied. Then he stretched out his hand to remove Lone Wolf's mask. Let's see what exactly you look like. Qiu-Yi waved his hand and removed Lone Wolf's black mask. However, when he saw Lone Wolf's face, the smile on his face froze. A face that Qiu-Yi could not imagine appeared under the mask. He cried out hoarsely, "How can this be?" When the others saw the strange situation, they quickly came over to take a look. They all exclaimed in shock, "Zhongli! How can it be him? How can this be?" Qi. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Lone Wolf's corpse shrank until it finally became the corpse of a white wolf. Zhuoping's expression turned grave as she said, "We were tricked. This is the external incarnation unique to the half-fiend race. The incarnation strength is no different from the main body. It is very difficult to cultivate. I did not expect Lone Wolf to learn it." Qiu-Yi's expression turned cold as he sent out a sword chi. With a so, the white wolf on the ground was sliced in half. That Xiaochen must have found out long ago. Let's hurry back. Qiu-Yi's eyes were filled with killing intent, and his entire being was terrifyingly cold. After planning for more than half a month and meticulously preparing, he was actually tricked at the last moment. At this moment, his mood could be said to be as terrible as it could get. The group of people had consumed too much true essence, so they didn't dare to use Qi to fly. They could only desperately run towards the city. Halfway there, Qiu-Yi said, "It will definitely take some time before a victor is decided. We still have a chance." Indeed, it was as Qiu-Yi said. When the group arrived at the city lord's residence, they happened to see Xiaochen removing a spatial ring from a headless corpse. When Qiu-Yi saw the headless corpse, he was stunned at first. Then he shouted, "Xiaochen, how bold of you! You discovered that it was Lone Wolf's clone long ago. Yet you still dared to trick us." The moment Qiu-Yi spoke, he accused Xiaochen of cheating, trying to use reason to pressure Xiaochen. Long ago, Xiaochen had expected this group of people to rush over. He searched Lone Wolf's body unhurriedly, and found a secret manual. Before everyone's envious gazes he took it. "It was not me who tricked you. It was Lone Wolf who tricked you." Full Moon Pavilion's Qiu-Yi, don't make a mistake. Xiaochen spoke calmly in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Qiu-Yi felt angry in his heart. He wished that he could slap Xiaochen to death. However, he had exhausted too much essence, so it was not convenient for him to make a move. He could only say coldly, "Xiaochen, according to the rules, no matter who obtains the proof of completion, Lone Wolf's treasures have to be handed over to us." Xiaochen smiled disapprovingly. "Whose rule? Since when did you ask me? Since when did I agree to it?" When Qiu-Yi saw Xiaochen's attitude, not caring about him at all, he could not help but feel stifled, unable to say anything. "Xiaochen, what are you pretending for? You already got what you wanted, yet you are still trying to act innocent. Hurry up and hand over Lone Wolf's treasures. Otherwise, you can forget about leaving this city lord's residence today." "Right, that's right. Hurry up and hand over Lone Wolf's treasures. We don't need your proof of completion. We have already treated you well enough. You can take the proof of completion and leave. However, you must leave behind Lone Wolf's treasures." The people from the surrounding sects all spoke in an irritated tone. They had worked so hard for so long. They did not want to end up empty-handed. Furthermore, Xiaochen was alone and did not have a high cultivation. If not for the fact that he was a Haotian sect disciple, they would not even give him the proof of completion. Qiu-Yi and Zhuoping exchanged glances. They understood each other's intentions from their gazes. "Xiaochen, on account that you are a Haotian sect disciple, I will not make things difficult for you. As long as you leave behind Lone Wolf's spatial ring and that secret manual, you can leave." Qiu-Yi spoke frankly with assurance. This was already his final concession. If Xiaochen still did not know what was good for him, then Xiaochen could not blame him for being ruthless. Xiaochen smiled coldly to himself. This group of people is really funny. They were fooled by Lone Wolf's clones and did not obtain anything. Unexpectedly, they came over to extort him. Furthermore, they were very magnanimous, acting like they were showing mercy. What did it have to do with them that I killed Lone Wolf alone? What sophistry! Xiaochen stepped forward expressionlessly. He looked at the various sect cultivators hiding their murderous intent and said sullenly, I was the one who killed Lone Wolf. It is impossible for you to take anything from me. I advise you to give up on this thought. Qiu Yi released his murderous intent without hiding it at all. He stared at Xiao Chun with a sinister gaze and smiled coldly. So, you are saying that you are not going to hand it over? Zhuo Ping's pretty face also turned sullen. She said, what is the point of speaking so much nonsense with him? Just cripple him, and we can just take the things and leave. This woman is really vicious. She looks so good for nothing, Xiao Chun thought to himself, feeling that it was a pity. As Xiao Chun looked at the crowd that could not wait to charge over, he laughed loudly and said, I really want to know what gives you the courage to threaten me like this despite your veritable essence energy being almost drained. Our quintessence is exhausted, but so is yours. Do you think we are air? Could it be that you can defeat so many of us by yourself? A person said disdainfully as he held a sharp saber in his hand and looked at Xiao Chun. Congratulations, you are right. In my eyes, you are indeed not even worth air. Xiao Chun smiled coldly and charged at the person who spoke. As he ran, his aura flourished. Vital qi surged in his body, causing the ground to tremble. Bang! The two cultivators in front of that person were knocked into the air by Xiao Chun. Half the bones in their bodies shattered. That person was horrified. When he saw Xiao Chun suddenly charging at him, he did not know what to do. When Xiao Chun arrived in front of him, he swung his saber. Kasie. Xiao Chun used his palm as a saber, and a strong wind howled. When the palm saber struck that person's wrist, the sound of bones breaking resounded. The treasure saber fell to the ground with a huangdang sound. Before that person could cry out in pain, Xiao Chun landed a palm strike on that person's chest. He used less than 30% of his 1.5 tons of vital qi, breaking that person's ribs and sending him flying back 100 meters. A strange look flashed in the eyes of Qiu Yi and Zhuo Ping. After they reacted, they circulated the remaining quintessence in their bodies and charged at Xiao Chun. After the initial panic, the others roared ferociously and sent out their remaining quintessence. They sent out several dozen beams of energy at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun crossed his arms and smiled coldly. He materialized the stance of crouching tiger hidden dragon. When the sword qi and saber qi struck his arms, they gave off dang 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 sounds. Two especially sharp sword qi flew at Xiao Chun amid the shock waves. They were the peak inner sect disciples of the Full Moon Pavilion, Qiu Yi, and the Thousand Mystery Sect, Zhuo Ping. Crouching tiger hidden dragon. Xiao Chun spread out his arms, and the aura that he had stored up erupted. Like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves, he sent the two flying. Cultivators relied mainly on quintessence. If a cultivator exhausted all their quintessence, they would not be able to bring out their full strength, no matter how capable they were. Right now, the group of sect elite disciples in front of Xiao Chun was in such a situation. When they met with Xiao Chun, who had a strong physical body, they could only get beaten up. Damn it! Qiu Yi vomited a mouthful of blood, feeling very sullen in his heart. He had not expected a minor character from the Haotian sect to beat him into such a sorry state. Qiu Yi smashed his right palm on the ground, not caring about overdrawing on his quintessence. His sword danced, giving off a bright light. He wanted to use technique to break force, using exquisite sword techniques to defeat Xiao Chun. Unfortunately, Qiu Yi was too naive. When the difference in strength was too great, no matter how exquisite a sword technique was, without quintessence to rely on, it would just be for show. Xiao Chun took a step forward and kicked. A strong wind blew and scattered Qiu Yi's sword technique. Then Xiao Chun kicked Qiu Yi's face back. Qiu Yi's handsome face immediately contorted into a sorry state. Xiu. Just at this moment, an exceptionally sharp killing qi flew over from behind Xiao Chun at an incredible speed. The Thousand Mystery Sects Zhuo Ping took advantage of the time when Xiao Chun was distracted by Qiu Yi to sneak behind him. Then, she found an excellent angle to launch a sneak attack. The thin sword flickered with a cold light. The angle was tricky. Soon, it would stab into Xiao Chun's spine. A sinister expression appeared on Zhuo Ping's face. Xiao Chun smiled faintly. He had already noticed the other party with his spiritual sense long ago. She really thought that her sneak attack had succeeded. Xiao Chun nimbly turned around and brushed past that fatal thin sword. Then he clenched his right fist and punched Zhuoping's pretty face without any tenderness for the fairer sex. Zhuoping cried out miserably as she held her collapsed nose. Then she fell to the ground in pain, rolling a few times before stopping. When the other elite disciples of the various sects saw their two leaders end up in such a state, they looked at Xiao Chun and could not help but take a few steps back. Chapter 676. Xiao Chun swept his gaze over everyone's expressions. A deep look of disdain appeared in the depths of his eyes. He snorted coldly and left. The full moon hung high in the sky. As everyone watched the white figure leave, no one dared to say anything. I will not let this matter rest like this. Sometime after Xiao Chun left, Qiu Yi, who had recovered slightly, punched the ground with his right hand. As a peak inner sect disciple of the Full Moon Pavilion, Qiu Yi had become famous at a young age. If he put in a little more effort, he would have been a genius who could have become a true inheritor. However, today he had exhausted his quintessence and was humiliated by a nameless brat. How could he swallow this down? Qiu Yi slowly stood up. The footprint on his face had not completely disappeared yet. When he moved his lips, it caused his swollen wound to feel excruciating pain. As Qiu Yi watched Xiao Chun leave, heavy hatred filled his eyes. He muttered to himself, "Don't think that everything will be fine just because you left. In the future I will definitely challenge the Haotian sect and let you know what regret is." On the other side, Zhuoping also slowly stood up. She sneak-attacked Xiao Chun and ended up getting her nose broken by Xiao Chun. She was in an even worse state than Qiu Yi. A malicious look flashed in Zhuoping's eyes as she silently left without saying a word. This Xiao Chun is probably in big trouble now. We do not dare to challenge the Haotian sect. However, these two are bona fide disciples of the 9 ranks of the great families. How could they swallow this down? Let's go. This white-robed bladesman is too arrogant. When the time comes, I will definitely go and see how miserable he looks after Qiu Yi and Zhuoping recovered their quintessence. The group of helpless sect disciples, who were beaten up by Xiao Chun, grumbled angrily for a while before leaving the place helplessly. Outside the city lord's residence, the city lord's expression was even more unsightly than the others when he saw the ruins of the city lord's residence. However, Xiao Chun was a disciple of the 9 ranks of the great families. Furthermore, he had helped the city lord kill Lone Wolf. No matter how depressed he felt, he could not do anything about it. After leaving Heavenly Water City, Xiao Chun was not in a rush to open Lone Wolf's spatial ring. Instead, he found a desolate place in the forest and started to recover his quintessence. When the sun rose, Xiao Chun opened his eyes and smiled at the rising sun. Then he happily opened Lone Wolf's spatial ring. Normally, loose cultivators would not have much wealth on them. However, the other party was a great bandit. No matter how unsightly he was, he definitely had more wealth than the 7 Black Wind Killers combined. After all of this, Xiao Chun of his life, of the loose of the 7 Black Bandits he felt. Xiao Chun counted the large number of superior grade spirit stones. There was a total of 3 million superior grade spirit stones. There was a total of 3 million superior grade spirit stones. Xiao Chun could not help but reveal an expression of joy. No wonder those fellows coveted Lone Wolf's treasures. With so many superior grade spirit stones, even if they were split evenly, everyone would still obtain a large harvest. There were also several rank 8 medicinal pills and natural treasures. Most of them were essential medicinal pills for cultivators. Even if Xiao Chun could not use them, he could sell them for spirit stones. However, after searching for a long time, he did not find the spirit-gathering pearls that Xiao Chun needed the most. Not only did he not see any inferior-grade spirit-gathering pearls, but he did not even see a single medial-grade spirit-gathering pearl. That should not be the case. If there were no medial-grade spirit-gathering pearls, it would be understandable. However, there should still be some inferior-grade spirit-gathering pearls. Xiao Chun revealed doubt in his eyes as he continued his search. He even searched several corners of the spatial ring several times. After a long time, an ordinary-looking brocade box appeared in Xiao Chun's spiritual sense. With a thought, Xiao Chun took out the brocade box. The box was very strange. Xiao Chun's spiritual sense could not penetrate it. However, it did not contain any spiritual energy, looking very ordinary. Whoosh! After hesitating for a while, Xiaochen gently opened the brocade box. He saw a bright light radiating everywhere. There were inferior-grade spirit-gathering pearls neatly arranged in the box. Xiaochen said joyfully, "This box is indeed strange. No wonder I could not find the spirit-gathering pearls. So they were all hidden here." Xiaochen counted the number of inferior-grade spirit-gathering pearls. Although there were not many of them, Zhong Zhongli was a loose cultivator. For him to obtain so many inferior-grade spirit-gathering pearls as a loose cultivator, he must have killed many sect disciples and robbed many noble clans before he could obtain them. This lone wolf Zhongli must have killed many sect disciples and ransacked many noble clans before he could obtain them. A white light flashed. Xiaochen did not stand on ceremony and placed all the inferior-grade spirit-gathering pearls in his spatial ring. In the end, his cultivation was still lacking. He urgently needed spirit-gathering pearls. Just as Xiaochen was about to close the brocade box, he suddenly discovered that there was a hidden compartment beneath the brocade box. He did not even place 200 spirit-gathering pearls in the hidden compartment. Could it be that the things inside are even more precious? When Xiaochen opened the hidden compartment, there was a beast skin map inside. The aura of the map was extremely ancient and vast. There were all sorts of maps and red dots on it. The red dots were of different shades. When one looked at the darker red dots, one would feel a ferocious and dangerous aura, causing one's heart to tremble. What kind of map is this? Xiaochen's expression turned grave as he looked at the map. The mountains, rivers, grass, trees, and flying beasts on the map actually materialized and leaped out of the map. The map quickly spread out before Xiaochen's eyes. Clouds churned, vast and boundless. Ancient rivers, mountains, and palaces appeared one by one. At the same time, the beast's skin map lit up. A horrifying savage aura soared into the sky, causing hundreds of beasts in the forest to flee. They panicked and caused a huge commotion. Xiaochen's face sank. He quickly covered the brocade box again. Only then did the vast and ancient savage aura disappear without a trace. When Xiaochen saw the commotion in his surroundings, he frowned. Then he looked at the clouds in the sky, which had been stirred up by the savage aura. "I have to leave quickly. That aura earlier clearly has tens of thousands of years of history. This map must have a great origin. Who knows, some major character might have sensed that aura earlier." Fortunately, this strange brocade box could seal this aura. Otherwise, even if he placed it in his spatial ring, Xiaochen would not be at ease concealing that overwhelming aura. Xiaochen summoned out 3 azure dragon images. As the dragons roared, he moved up and down, disappearing into the forest, going as far as he could. Not long after Xiaochen left, a black figure appeared above the forest. His aged face revealed a grave expression as he looked at the clouds in the sky. "Old Qiu, you sense the savage aura as well, right?" Soon, another white-haired old man flew over and spoke to Old Qiu indifferently. Old Qiu said regretfully, "It is definitely a spirit diagram from the savage battlefield. Based on that aura, it is definitely the real deal. However, it is currently concealed by a treasure that can hide spiritual energy." Old Qiu sighed in pity. Then he ignored the white-haired old man and flew far away. The white-haired old man closed his eyes and spread out his vast mental energy into the surroundings like the tide. From 1 kilometer to 2 kilometers, it reached 10 kilometers. However, he still could not sense the treasure that released the savage aura earlier. He could not help but shake his head and say, "The demonic barrier in the savage battlefield is weakening soon. If I can find this item, it will be of great help to my sect's disciples when they enter the savage battlefield. I'll go search again and try my luck." The white-haired old man's figure flashed, and he turned into a beam of light. His figure seemed to merge with the world, and he moved incredibly fast. In the following days, Xiaochen did not open the brocade box again. Instead, he took out the mission list and started to complete the 2,000-point missions. Although the remaining missions were still difficult, they were not as difficult as Lone Wolf's. Now that he had dealt with the most difficult part, the rest was much easier. Xiaochen could even take a break and use the spirit-gathering pearls to raise his cultivation. Time went by slowly. As the end of the month approached, Xiaochen completed 10 2,000-point missions. The intense battles with the many loose cultivators had not only strengthened Xiaochen's combat experience, but he had also accumulated a lot of war spoils. Now Xiaochen had a total of 7 million superior grade spirit stones. He had some extra money. He also had 300 or 400 inferior grade spirit gathering pearls. However, Xiaochen still did not obtain any medial grade spirit gathering pearls. If a loose cultivator obtained such a precious item, they would definitely consume it immediately and not hide it. With 23,000 contribution points, I should be able to rank first. If I fail, I can only think of other ways to exchange for medial grade spirit gathering pearls. With the aid of the large number of spirit gathering pearls, Xiaochen's cultivation had already reached peak late stage inferior grade martial monarch. All he had to do now was wait for the medial grade spirit gathering pearls to break through the bottleneck. 5 days later, Xiaochen returned to the Haotian province and headed for Haotian city. The moment Xiaochen walked out of the ancient transportation formation outside the city gates, he felt a few flickering gazes on him. His expression turned grave. He knew that something was about to happen. Indeed, when the city gates came into view, Yu Jiqiang led the leaders of the inner sect's 5 factions down from a flying beast and blocked Xiaochen's path. Yu Jiqiang blocked Xiaochen's path, withdrawing the killing chi in his eyes. He smiled gently and said, "Junior brother Xiao, it has been a long time. How have you been?" Lan Feichen was very cocky. As he looked at Xiaochen, he teased, "Junior brother Xiaochen, after not seeing you for half a month, your cultivation has grown rather fast. You have already reached peak late stage inferior grade martial monarch. Unfortunately, you are only peak late stage inferior grade martial monarch." As Lan Feichen spoke, he unleashed his strong aura, showing that he was a peak late stage medial grade martial monarch. His aura spread out, and a strong wind blew in the surroundings, pressing down on Xiaochen. One was a peak late stage inferior grade martial monarch, and the other was a peak late-stage medial grade martial monarch. On the surface, it looked like there was an entire cultivation realm between them. However, Xiaochen had refined his quintessence twice before. He had refined it once before he consumed the quintessence gathering pill. During his fight with Lone Wolf, he knew that there was not much of a difference in their cultivations. The Lan Feichen before Xiaochen had just advanced to peak late-stage medial grade martial monarch. He was still weaker than Lone Wolf. How could he inspire any fear in Xiaochen? Ignoring Lan Feichen, Xiaochen raised his head and looked at Yu Jiqiang. He said calmly, "There is no need to beat around the bush. If you have something to say, just say it directly." Seeing that Xiaochen ignored his actions like a clown, Lan Feichen could not help but fly into a rage out of humiliation. He immediately wanted to make a move. Yu Jiqiang stopped Lan Feichen and smiled gently. "Junior brother Xiao is right. If you have something to say, just say it directly. In that case, I will say it directly. Hand over all the proof of your mission. Otherwise, you can forget about entering the city today." Chapter 677. Xiaochen retorted indifferently. "Do you think I will agree?" Yu Jiqiang smiled coldly and said, "I knew you would say that. However, no matter what you say today, the outcome is already decided." Right after Yu Jiqiang spoke, the 5 unleashed their auras and pressed down on Xiaochen. Each of them was a peak late-stage medial grade martial monarch. The 5 auras were like 5 solid mountains. They carried great momentum and kicked up a strong wind as they pressed down on Xiaochen. A strong wind blew, kicking up a cloud of dust. Xiaochen's eyes were closed, and his white robes fluttered in the wind. It looked like a strong wind would blow him away at any moment. Several Haotian sect disciples on the city walls felt the strong auras, and leaped out to investigate. When they saw this scene, they were all greatly startled. The leaders of the 5 factions that dominated the inner sect actually made a move at the same time to deal with a new disciple of the Sky Dome realm. This was too exaggerated. Any one of Yu Jiqiang's group of 5 would be at the peak of the inner sect. They were somewhat famous in the 18 southern provinces. The 5 of them attacking together was something they had never seen before. What's wrong with this white-robed bladesman? Unexpectedly, he offended all 5 of them in one go. Haha. After being in the Haotian sect for so many years, Do you still not understand? There is no such thing as offending or not offending. It is just that these 5 people feel that Xiao Chun is a great threat to them, and are purposely looking for trouble. That's not right. Xiao Chun is only an inferior grade martial monarch. He is far weaker than them. Why do they feel threatened by him? Who knows what is going on? In any case, this Xiao Chun is going to suffer today. As the disciples discussed, they looked at Xiao Chun with sympathy. If Yu Jiqiang's group of 5 attacked together, the outcome would be clear. The stout Sitagang, who was hidden in the crowd, also had a cold glint in his eyes. There was also a person beside him who looked at Xiao Chun with hatred. Gui Wu asked sinisterly, Sitagang, are you here to join in the excitement as well? Sitagang chuckled and said, that is natural. Today Xiao Chun definitely has no chance. How can I not take advantage of this opportunity to trample on him? Gui Wu, you have the same idea, right? Gui Wu smiled sinisterly and said, with the 5 peak inner sect disciples making a move, how could there be a miracle? If he wants to blame someone, he can only blame himself for being in the limelight and not understanding how to conduct himself. No matter what the outside world said, Xiao Chun wore a white robe, looking calm and natural. He looked at the powerful auras of the 5 people in front of him, not moving an inch. Yu Jiqiang and the others were inwardly shocked. They could not understand how Xiao Chun, who was a major realm lower than them, could remain so calm and composed when facing 5 auras. Senior brothers, let's go all out and suppress him with our auras. Lan Feichen felt even more depressed in his heart. He roared, wanting to work together to completely suppress Xiao Chun's aura. Don't hold back. Suppress him with all your might. Yu Jiqiang felt somewhat frustrated as well. The 5 of them had attacked together before so many people, yet they could not suppress Xiao Chun with their auras. No matter what, this could not be justified. Boom. The quintessence in the 5's bodies surged, and they no longer held back. They unleashed their auras to their limits, and a faint light appeared on their bodies. The surging and boundless auras surged like a raging river, gushing endlessly. They wanted to wash away Xiao Chun, pressing forward without turning back. Xiao Chun smiled coldly to himself. This group of people is really naive. Now that I have the aura of an ancient sovereign in my bloodline, I will not fear the auras of a peak martial sage. How could the auras of 5 insignificant medial-grade martial monarchs put any pressure on me? Their thinking is simply laughable. Back off. Xiao Chun roared in his heart and took a step forward. As he did so, he unleashed the aura of an ancient sovereign. Bang, bang, bang. 5 intense collisions rang out in the void. Each sound was like a sudden clap of thunder. The sound was deafening, and the void within a radius of 1,000 meters was trembling. Yu Jiqiang and the others all vomited a mouthful of blood. With one step, Xiao Chun forced them back 100 meters. Their expressions were filled with horror. This scene stunned everyone. 5 bona fide peak late-stage medial-grade martial monarchs actually lost to Xiao Chun in a competition of auras. They lost to Xiao Chun, a cultivator of the Sky Dome realm, to Xiao Chun, a peak late-stage inferior-grade martial monarch. Furthermore, they lost so decisively and in such a sorry state. How can there be such a strong aura? I actually feel the aura of an ancient sovereign. Everyone exclaimed in astonishment, their eyes filled with shock. While you are down, I will take your life. Xiao Chun did not show mercy after gaining the upper hand. Before the 5 landed on the ground, a resonant dragon roar came from his body, and an azure dragon image appeared. Rise! Standing on the blue dragon, Xiao Chun moved very quickly. In an instant, he arrived before the weakest of the 5, Lan Feichen, and threw a punch. Lan Feichen was greatly startled. He placed his right hand on the weapon at his waist, wanting to draw it to face his enemy. Xiao Chun's left hand turned into a palm saber. Azure vital chi surged as it struck Lan Feichen's wrist. Kassier. Lan Feichen's wrist bone shattered. The force in his hand immediately dissipated. The weapon that Lan Feichen had just drawn fell back into its scabbard. Lan Feichen endured the intense pain and watched the fist approach his ear. He clenched his left fist and punched out before he could store up much quintessence. When the 2 fists met, the sound of bones breaking rang out. Under Xiao Chun's 500 tons of force, Lan Feichen's left hand was not enough. His entire left hand was crippled on the spot. This time, Lan Feichen could no longer endure it and cried out in pain. This time, he could no longer endure it and cried out in pain. Xiao Chen did not even bother to look at him. He raised his hand high and sent him flying with a slap. Lan Feichen vomited a mouthful of broken teeth and blood as he fell to the ground. Lan Feichen's right wrist shattered, and the bones in his left hand shattered. Despite having all his quintessence, he could no longer get up. One palm saber, one fist wind, and one slap. Xiao Chen crippled Lan Feichen in 3 moves. Everything happened in the time it took for a spark to fly, so fast that it was hard to believe. Yu Jiqiang and the other 3 were knocked back by Xiao Chen's aura. They had just landed. By the time they reacted, it was already too late. Attack together. We cannot hold back at all. Horror flashed in Yu Jiqiang's eyes. He quickly drew a sword and charged at Xiao Chen at lightning speed. 100 Flowers Soar. Scarlet Light Sword. Clear Cloud Rui Saber. The other 3 drew their weapons as well. Infused with strong quintessence, they executed their best moves. In an instant, there was a bright light, and killing intent filled the air, encasing Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled gently, and 2 dragon roars came from his body again. 2 blue dragons appeared around him, and the blue dragon swung its tail in an arc. A strong wind blew, and the dragons roared ferociously. Xiao Chen found an opening and easily passed through the encirclement of the 4. The blue dragon below him circled around and carried him up. After him. Seeing Xiao Chen escape, Yu Jiqiang shouted coldly and leaped forward while holding his sword. For beams of rainbow light flew at Xiao Chen. After rising to a certain height, Xiao Chen stopped. He did not fear the encirclement of the 4. However, there were more angles for him to dodge in the air, making it easier to deal with them. Xiao Chen was not in a rush to take out the lunar shadow saber. Seeing Yu Jiqiang fly up first, Xiao Chen opened his left hand into a claw and clenched his right hand into a fist. As Xiao Chen's vital qi surged, he executed Berserk Dragon at the same time. A dragon roared ferociously on his right fist, and a dragon claw appeared on his left claw. The head and tail connected, forming a complete blue dragon. Berserk Dragon Break. Xiao Chen attacked the approaching Yu Jiqiang without any hesitation. A blue dragon formed purely from vital qi. The blue dragon flickered with light, and its eyes glared ferociously. As it bared its fangs and claws, it exuded a boundlessly arrogant aura. How arrogant! You actually dare to use only vital qi to fight. Do you think my cultivation is just for show? Yu Jiqiang smiled coldly, and a green light spread out from his sword. Vast quintessence gathered in it, forming a 10-meter-long green sword light. The sword light contained a heavy aura of earth. It gave the sharp sword qi a stable and solid quality, making it even more solid. It was clear that Yu Jiqiang's attainments in the state of earth were deep. Kasie. The sword light flashed, and Yu Jiqiang chopped the blue dragon flying at him in half. However, the dragon head did not dissipate as he expected. Instead, it continued roaring at him. Yu Jiqiang's expression changed slightly, and he had no choice but to send another sword strike to chop it in half. With this delay, Xiao Chen rode the blue dragon and took advantage of the opportunity to arrive 2 meters before Yu Jiqiang. Then he punched him 81 times. The fist lights contained boundless vital qi. Explosions rang out incessantly. Space trembled as fist images flickered. Xiao Chen stood on a blue dragon, and 2 other blue dragons floated around him. Not only did his speed increase, but he was also very nimble. Every so often, he would send out several dozen punches. Xiao Chen moved gently, and he arrived behind Yu Jiqiang without leaving a trace. Then he sent out several dozen more punches. Although Yu Jiqiang had the advantage of veritable essence energy, he could not touch Xiao Chen at all. He was forced into a fluster by Xiao Chen. He could only passively defend, unable to counterattack. When the other 3 saw the situation, they quickly rushed over to help. However, Xiao Chen only smiled faintly, not greedy at all. He left behind an afterimage and quickly fled far away. Blue Dragon Tail Whip. Before the others could catch their breaths and search for Xiao Chen, they saw another strong wind blow. 3 blue dragons reared their heads and roared ferociously, giving off a startling aura. When the dragon's roar stopped and the strong wind stopped, the others discovered that Xiao Chen had clashed with Feng Wuheng, who was on the rightmost side. Feng Wuheng's cultivation was slightly weaker than Yu Jiqiang's. When faced with Xiao Chen's overwhelming fist images, he found himself at a disadvantage. He could only struggle to deal with them. While Feng Wuheng was flustered, he quickly revealed an opening. Xiao Chen smiled faintly, not greedy at all. This was because the other three had already reacted. The blue dragon under Xiao Chen's feet dipped down before rising up and flying away easily, not giving the other four a chance to surround him. Another strong wind blew as Xiao Chen charged at Bai Zihao, who was on the leftmost side. Similarly, fist images filled the sky, coming and going without a trace. Xiao Chen used his advantage in speed to send out countless shocking fist lights. Bang! 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 The sky trembled, and white clouds scattered. Loud rumbles sounded like rolling thunder, not stopping for a moment. The onlookers could only see Xiao Chen flying up and down within the three azure dragons. He punched out, filling the sky with fist images. Each punch carried a force of 75 kilograms, enough to shatter a mountain. Chapter 678. Yu Jiqiang's group of four had high cultivations, but they were too slow. They could not catch Xiao Chen or surround him. Instead, Xiao Chen grasped the rhythm of the battle. Such an unimaginable scene caused everyone to be dumbstruck. Their mouths were agape, and they seemed to be in complete disbelief. Move closer. Shoulder to shoulder. Yu Jiqiang consumed his quintessence and tried several times to surround them, but to no avail. The muscles on his face twitched, and he could not help but say these words. The four quickly moved closer to each other, shoulder to shoulder, forming a small circle. They did not give Xiao Chen any opportunity to attack. This move was indeed effective. No matter who Xiao Chen attacked, the other three could quickly charge over, preventing him from making use of his advantage in speed. Haha. Yu Jiqiang, didn't you want my proof of completion? Why are you like a turtle hiding in its shell? How pitiful. When Xiao Chen saw this scene, he laughed loudly and mocked them without any hesitation. The four were enraged. They could not help but charge forward, wanting to clash with Xiao Chen again. However, it is useless to hide together. Burning the heavens. Before the four could charge out, Xiao Chen burned his vital qi. Azure smoke came from the Tianmen acupoint on his head and soared into the sky. Large patches of white clouds quickly burned with azure flames. From a distance, it looked like the sky was really burning. There seemed to be a huge dragon-shaped creature swimming in the azure clouds. As Xiao Chen shouted, a dragon claw clenched into a fist and descended. The four worked together to defend, each sending out a move to clash head-on with this burning the heavens fist. Their qi and blood surged, and their internal organs trembled. With another shout, Xiao Chen burned all the vital qi in his body. After his firmament body tempering art reached peak 6th layer, he could already face a medial-grade martial monarch alone. After consuming the half-drop of dragon marrow and monarch bloodgrass, he could be said to have undergone a rebirth. His blood vessels and bones all looked brand new. When he was about to burn his boats and burn all of his strength, the power that erupted was enough to overturn a mountain and shake the heavens and earth. Roar! Following Xiao Chen's shout, the dragon shadow hidden in the surging green clouds also roared furiously, echoing Xiao Chen's shout. The wind and clouds surged. The burning blue sky seemed like it was about to sink. The entire space began to tremble endlessly. Burning Heaven Claw. A huge, solid-looking dragon claw covered in dragon scales tore through the clouds and quickly pressed down on the four people gathered together. The dragon claw was like a small mountain. The instant it broke through the clouds, a huge shadow enveloped the four of them. Bang! The four of them did their best to resist, but they were still slightly lacking. The suppressed qi and blood in their bodies could no longer endure it, and they vomited a large mouthful of blood before falling to the ground. Fortunately, the dragon claw only appeared for an instant before disappearing without a trace. Otherwise, it would have killed the four of them with a single claw. After executing this move, Xiao Chen's boundless vital qi was completely drained. He did not have any left. In fact, he had even overdrawn on it. However, Xiao Chen still had not used his quintessence. He still had not used the saber technique that he was so proud of. He had not drawn the lunar shadow saber from the very start. With a flip of his left hand, the lunar shadow saber appeared in his palm from the universe ring. Then he grasped it tightly. The blue dragon danced in the air. Xiao Chen's white robes fluttered in the wind. He gave off an indescribable sense of solemnity and elegance, intoxicating others. It was hard to imagine that a bladesman could have such an otherworldly aura. His heart of innocence seemed to be untainted by the mundane world. When Xiao Chen drew his saber, a dazzling purple light flickered with boundless electricity. Under the restraint of the perfect saber intent, it quickly merged into one, not leaking out at all. The azure dragon image attacked at full power, chasing after Yu Jiqiang's group of 4 with all its might. After 2 leaps, it caught up to them even though it had started later. Sea of Lightning Saber Light. Xiao Chen quickly swung his saber 7 times. Each saber strike perfectly infused the immortal state of thunder into it. Then, it split into 21 saber images that looked both real and fake. The saber technique was like a surging sea, boundlessly vast. It was also like thousands of light images, making it hard to distinguish between real and fake. The hearts of the 4 sank. They could tell that this saber technique was extraordinary. However, they could not tell what was extraordinary. Unfortunately, the saber images had already arrived. There was no time to think. They could only use their own means to block this strange saber technique first. Dang, dang, dang. When the saber and sword clashed, there was a metallic sound. The 4 were all injured, but their vital points were not injured. They could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Bang! However, they had not expected that this was just the beginning. The 21 saber images that scattered suddenly formed a vast sea of lightning. The sea of lightning arrived. Its horrifying force knocked the 4 back, aggravating their internal injuries. What was even more horrifying was that Xiao Chen had disappeared. Furthermore, there was a venomous gaze staring at them from an unknown place, making the 4 tremble in fear. A strand of saber light suddenly appeared, like a rainbow piercing through the sky. It disappeared in a flash without a trace. When the 4 of them came back to their senses, it was already too late. When the 4 recovered their wits, they discovered that wounds had appeared on their left shoulders. Then their 4 left arms fell off. For miserable screams resounded. Yu Jiqiang and the rest could not be bothered with the pain, as they quickly grabbed their arms. Then they ran back into the city in a sorry state. They hated that they could not grow another leg. If they could recover their arms in time, they could still reattach them. However, if they were too late, it would be hard to say what would happen. Just as everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, feeling a chill at Xiao Chen's strength, a figure suddenly leaped out of the crowd. That person drew upon the power of heaven and earth, forming the silhouette of an ancient giant in the void, holding a heavy cyan ruler. This ancient giant carried the vast might of the ancient giant as it charged at Xiao Chen, who had just finished his battle. Xiao Chen, you brat. Eat this ruler of Grandpa Situ's. Situ Gang revealed a sinister smile. Xiao Chen had exhausted all his vital qi and executed a killing move. This was a good opportunity for Situ Gang to launch a sneak attack. That ancient giant was 300 meters tall in the sky. It stood in the clouds, pointing to the sky and standing on the ground. Like Situ Gang, it also held a heavy azure ruler. A boundless might spread out, and the sky turned gloomy. A storm was brewing, and the atmosphere turned heavy. The heavy and ancient aura solidified the air. Clearly, Situ Gang had stored up power for a long time for this attack. He truly wanted to injure Xiao Chen, so he did not hold back at all. The opportunity that Situ Gang sought was also extremely vicious. It happened to be an opening after Xiao Chen executed the Sea of Lightning Saber Light. Situ Gang wanted to deal a fatal blow. Xiao Chen's expression turned cold, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. From the moment Xiao Chen stepped into the Haotian sect, Situ Gang had sought trouble for him. Then he took advantage of Xiao Chen's battles to launch sneak attacks. Situ Gang was clearly a boorish person, but his thoughts were so sinister and despicable. Did he really think that Xiao Chen did not dare to do anything to him? That he could not do anything to him? If you want to play big, then I will play big with you. Xiao Chen sank his heart and circulated his quintessence in his body. He circulated the energy of the dragon's subduing slash, and the aura of the blue dragon emerging from the sea quickly accumulated. Suddenly, a mysterious phenomenon appeared behind Xiao Chun. A boundless, surging sea appeared in the sky. A vast aura spread out and clashed intensely with the ancient giant's desolate chi in the air. In that instant, winds blew, clouds churned and waves roared. Lightning crackled in the sky, and the sky changed color. Situ Gang merged with the giant image, and the heavy ruler in his hand shone with a brilliant light. Situ Gang grew to 300 meters tall, revealing a ferocious expression as he hacked at Xiao Chun. This one ruler seemed to split the sky in half. The air in front of Situ Gang turned turbulent, forming berserk tornadoes in the air. If there was a mountain blocking Situ Gang's path at this moment, it would probably be split in half by this heavy ruler without a doubt. The destructive power of Battle Realm geniuses truly lived up to their reputations, inspiring fear in others. However, Xiao Chun had a heaven-ranked martial technique, so he did not fear it at all. He stored up a boundless aura as he looked at the approaching Situ Gang and shouted, "Boom! Boom! Boom!" 999 pillars of water soared into the sky from the vast sea behind Xiao Chun. Each pillar of water contained boundless quintessence, causing space to tremble and the world to tremble. Amid this startling aura, a dragon roar rang out, piercing through the sky for 5,000 kilometers around. It descended to the deep abyss and tore apart the boundless sea. A blue dragon leaped out of the sea and infused itself into the saber, bursting out a 3-kilometer-long saber light. Scram! Xiao Chun shouted coldly and chopped at Situ Gang, who was above. The 3-kilometer-long saber light had a blue dragon circling it, and auspicious clouds appeared, adding boundless might to it. Kasie. Under the attack of this saber light, the heavy ruler in Situ Gang's hand shattered, turning into thousands of specks of light and disappearing. Bang! The saber light struck Situ Gang's body, knocking him back and causing him to vomit blood. The giant image around him also vanished. The unparalleled aura pressed down on the air, vanishing without a trace. Situ Gang flew back like a cannonball, crashing into the city wall behind him. Half his body hung there, his survival unknown. When the inner sect disciples saw the ferocious Situ Gang get knocked back by Xiao Chun's saber strike, they were speechless, unable to recover their wits for a long time. Xiao Chun sheathed his saber and checked the quintessence in his body. Then he frowned slightly. He had been too rash. In order to teach Situ Gang a lesson, Xiao Chun had brought out the complete heaven-ranked martial technique's full might. Now he did not have much quintessence left. If another enemy appeared, he would have to use his final trump card. The eyes of Gui Wu, who was hidden in the crowd, flickered as he struggled internally. Originally, Gui Wu had been prepared to beat Xiao Chun up. However, when he saw Xiao Chun display his might, the shock and disappointment in his heart far surpassed what others could imagine. Gui Wu wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to attack Xiao Chun. However, he feared that Xiao Chun still had a trump card that he had not used. If that happened, he would end up like Situ Gang. However, Gui Wu was not willing to leave just like that. If he missed this opportunity, he would not have another chance to defeat Xiao Chun in the future. "I'll go all out." He exhausted all his vital chi and used powerful moves consecutively. Right now, he definitely does not have much quintessence left. When his aura is at its peak, I will trample on him. That will definitely cast an indelible shadow on him, making it hard for his cultivation to improve in the future. Gui Wu showed a resolute expression as he made up his mind. Without any hesitation, he turned into a beam of dim light and shot toward Xiao Chun. Chapter 679. Xiao Chun's gaze sank. He had not expected someone to be so bold. Even after seeing his strength, he still dared to challenge him. This fellow is really seeking death. I can only reveal the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram. Rage filled Xiao Chun's heart. A light flickered in his eyes. Just as he was about to make a move, a blazing morning sun suddenly flew down from the city walls. Xiao Chun glanced at it and smiled to himself. He knew that he would not have to expose that trump card. A rainbow bridge of 7 colors appeared above the city walls. A pretty figure turned into the morning sun on the rainbow bridge and descended gracefully. This person helped Xiao Chun receive Gui Wu's strike. The light exploded, and boundless clouds scattered. Shock flashed in Gui Wu's eyes. He wanted to dissipate the other party's energy. However, the power of the morning sun seemed boundless, surging over endlessly. Bang! Finally, Gui Wu's protective quintessence shattered. The morning sun struck him, and he was tossed high into the air like a sandbag. Then he looked coldly at the person who attacked. Gui Wu spun around in the air, preparing to flee into the city. However, another azure-colored staff appeared out of nowhere and struck his abdomen. Immediately, he spat out a mouthful of bitter water. The wooden stick spun in a circle and struck him heavily, directly smashing him to the ground. Even his internal organs were shattered. When Gui Wu saw the person holding the staff, he exclaimed in shock, "It's you!" The person holding the staff was the Sky Dome Realm's Gong Yangyu, whom Gui Wu had humiliated in the past. Gong Yangyu and Yu Chenxi had originally come to watch the show. When they discovered that Xiao Chun was in trouble, they did not hesitate to help. Gong Yangyu looked coldly at Gui Wu and ignored him. Then he followed Yu Chenxi and arrived before Xiao Chun. "Are you alright?" Yu Chenxi asked out of concern as he landed beside Xiao Chun after sending Gui Wu flying. Xiao Chun shook his head and glanced at the jade pendant at Yu Chenxi's waist. He said, "I'm fine. I just exhausted too much energy. I will be fine after some rest. By the way, congratulations on advancing to Inner Sect Disciple." At this moment, Gong Yangyu landed as well. He smiled gently and said, "Yu Chenxi and I advanced at the same time this month. We are the best in the outer sect and did not embarrass the Sky Dome realm." Yu Chenxi could tell that Xiao Chun was rather weak. He smiled gently and said, "Let's not talk about this for now. Let's enter the city first before we chat." Situ Gang's friends from the Battle Realms were originally prepared to charge over and beat Xiao Chun up. However, when they saw Yu Chenxi and Gong Yangyu beside Xiao Chun, they were stunned. However, when they saw Yu Chenxi and saw Gong Yu, they knew that they had no chance. The three of them headed to the mission hall, chatting along the way. They talked about their experiences and were very agreeable. Chun worked hard. As he said he you as he. You was not. As he said he Chun you Chun he. In the first place, Yu Chenxi's talent was not inferior to anyone else's. However, she lacked experience. After a while she stood out. In this month's outer sect exam, she took the top spot and entered the inner sect. As for Gong Yangyu, after being humiliated by Gui Wu, he became even stricter with himself. After putting in a lot of hard work, he followed closely behind Yu Chenxi and entered the inner sect. The two of them had made great improvements. However, compared to Xiao Chun, they paled in comparison. However, the three of them were all cultivators of the Sky Dome realm. They did not have much desire to compete with each other. The strength that Xiao Chun displayed made the two feel happy. "We've arrived. The mission hall is in front. I'll go and see if I can get the first rank this time." Xiao Chun strode into the mission hall with some anticipation. Back then, Xiao Chun had completed 10 odd missions, and even received a 3,000 contribution point mission. This had caused a huge commotion. Several people were betting on whether Xiao Chun could return alive or not. This fellow really returned. I wonder if he completed the mission or not. He should have completed most of it. If he also completed the 3,000 point mission, he might have a chance to get the first rank. Wouldn't that mean that he would push Yin Feiyu down? That is a big matter. You must be joking. I don't believe that he completed the 3,000 point mission. He will definitely fail. The discussions in the mission hall rang out. Xiao Chun ignored them. He walked directly to the black-robed administrator and performed a cupped fist salute. "Senior, has Yin Feiyu returned yet?" The black-robed administrator had noticed Xiao Chun long ago. A gratified look flashed in his eyes as he said, "Yin Feiyu returned a little early this month due to some matters. His contribution points are..." Xiao Chun waved his hand and smiled. "Senior, there's no need to say any more. I'm still looking forward to it. Go and see for yourself." Filled with anticipation, Xiao Chun arrived before the contribution ranking. He looked up and immediately saw the person ranked first. Unsurprisingly, it was still Yin Feiyu. Xiao Chun looked to the left and saw Yin Feiyu's contribution points. 21,000 contribution points. Xiao Chen rejoiced in his heart. He revealed a smile on his face. He had completed 10 2,000-point missions and one 3,000-point mission. Xiao Chen's total contribution points would be 23,000, 2,000 more than Yun Feiyu's. If nothing unexpected happened, he would rank first on the contribution ranking this month. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen calmed down. He felt that this was too easy. Yun Feiyu occupied the first rank for a long time. If Xiao Chen could receive a 3,000-point mission, Yun Feiyu would definitely receive one as well. Furthermore, Yun Feiyu would receive more than Xiao Chen. Logically speaking, Xiao Chen should not be able to surpass the black-robed administrator in terms of contribution points this month. To Xiao Chen, this was just a goal. He did not have high hopes for success this time. Based on his original expectations, he would probably spend 2 to 3 months doing so. There must be a reason for this. However, it does not matter. As long as I can obtain medial-grade spirit gathering pearls, it will be fine. Xiao Chen shook his head and stopped thinking. Then he returned to the black-robed administrator and handed over the mission list and proof of completion. The black-robed administrator brought the proof of completion with the group of elders in the mission hall. After they verified that there were no mistakes, they started to arrange for Xiao Chen's rewards. This process took a lot of time. After Xiao Chen waited for a while, he received the rewards from the black-robed administrator. There was a total of 1,500,000 superior-grade spirit stones and contribution points. Haha, congratulations. This time, something unexpected happened to Yun Feiyu. With your contribution points, you will definitely rank first. The black-robed administrator smiled gently, a gratified expression in his eyes. He had not misjudged Xiao Chen. The other disciples in the hall had already perked up their ears. When they heard this, they were all shocked. Yun Feiyu, who occupied the first rank of the contribution ranking for many years, was actually pushed down by Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen carefully put away the spirit stones and asked out of curiosity, "What happened to Yun Feiyu?" The black-robed administrator replied, "He accepted a total of 9 missions worth 3,000 contribution points. In the end, he only completed 8 and gave up on the last one. One of the punishments for giving up on a mission was to deduct 3,000 contribution points. Otherwise, he would still be the first rank." Indeed, it was as Xiao Chen expected. He continued to ask, why did he give up on a mission for no reason? Given his experience, he should not have made the mistake of not having enough time. The punishment for giving up on a mission was very severe in the sect. Normally, no one would give up on a mission for no reason. Either they did not accept the mission because they were not confident, or they would definitely complete it after accepting it. I'm not sure. I only know that a true inheritor summoned him. They probably promised him benefits that were large enough to make him give up on the sect mission. Interesting. I really want to know what benefits those true inheritors promised to make him willing to accept the punishment for giving up on a mission. However, Xiao Chen was not a gossipy person. Although he was curious, he could not be bothered to investigate this matter. After thanking the black-robed administrator again, Xiao Chen invited Yu Chenxi and Gong Yangyu to his courtyard as guests. When Yu Chenxi and Gong Yangyu saw Xiao Chen's courtyard, they sighed. Their eyes filled with envy. "Senior brother Xiao, how many spirit stones does this courtyard cost per month?" Gong Yangyu asked as he looked around the courtyard. When he saw the cultivation room with its own spirit vein, he could not help but ask. After getting the answer, Gong Yangyu and Yu Chenxi could not help smiling bitterly. They said, 200,000 spirit stones per month. It looks like we can only wait. Xiao Chen thought for a while before taking out 1 million superior grade spirit stones each from his universe ring. Then he handed them to the two and said, "I'm lending you 1 million spirit stones for now. You can return them to me in the future." Xiao Chen took out 2 million superior grade spirit stones in one go. Gong Yangyu and Yu Chenxi were somewhat shocked. They did not dare to accept it. It was not that they were pretentious. It was just that this sum was too large. After being in the Kunlun realm for so long, they were very clear on the value of superior grade spirit stones. If they had to collect 1 million superior grade spirit stones by themselves, they would need at least 3 months. However, given Xiao Chen's character, How could he ask them to return the money? This gift was simply too heavy. Senior brother Xiao, you should keep these spirit stones for yourself. This is too much. We cannot accept it. The two rejected at the same time. They did not want Xiaochen to delay his cultivation for them. Xiaochen said softly, just take it. After some time, you will feel that this 1 million superior grade spirit stones is not worth much. Right now, the Tianwu domain looks calm, without any waves. However, I guess that there are already undercurrents. The geniuses from the lower realms are all resting and accumulating strength, preparing to challenge the experts who have been famous for a long time. There are also many young geniuses of the Tianwu domain. They are all preparing to shine at some point, becoming famous in one fell swoop. When advancing from half-sage to martial sage, there is a relatively large threshold. This gives the latecomers time to catch up. If I am not wrong, in 1 year at most, the entire Tianwu domain's younger generation will be rewritten. Time waits for no man. We need to make full use of every second. If we are late, a large group of people will surpass us. If we want to rise to the top, we cannot lack the necessary resources. After hearing Xiaochen's words, Gong Yangyu and Yu Chenxi were somewhat astonished at Xiaochen's lofty sentiments. While the others were still focused on the various struggles of the Haotian sect, Xiaochen had already set his sights on the entire Tianwu domain. Not to mention Xiaochen's cultivation, just the breadth of his horizons surpassed that of many people in the Supreme Sky sect. Gue Wu and the others were simply not on the same level as him. After some persuasion, the two no longer refused and accepted the spirit stones that Xiaochen handed over. Chapter 680. When Xiaochen saw this, he smiled faintly and started to make tea for the two of them. In the pavilion in the courtyard, the three of them looked at the beautiful scenery of the lake in front of them, sipping tea and chatting. They were relaxed and contented. Only after sunset did they bid each other farewell. The vast Kunlun realm was rife with people trying to deceive each other, fighting each other for resources. Hidden dangers lurked everywhere. Someone could make a move at any time. Xiaochen truly did not hope that these two good friends of his from the Sky Dome realm would fall on the arduous path of cultivation. If he could help, he would do so. There were still about 10 more days before he could collect his monthly stipend. Xiaochen took advantage of this opportunity to solidify his cultivation as a peak late-stage inferior grade martial monarch. Xiaochen spent the day comprehending the Sea of Lightning Saber Light. The might of the Sea of Lightning Saber Light was comparable to a heaven-ranked martial technique. When he changed it from a sword move to a saber move, there were still many imperfections. After a few actual battles, Xiaochen had already discovered some of them. As time passed, Xiaochen improved on the many flaws of the Sea of Lightning Saber Light. Furthermore, he added many of his own things into it. Xiaochen's state of thunder contained the state of immortality, which was different from others. If he could perfectly integrate it, the might of his saber technique would be even stronger. Immortal, what was immortal? Not 1,000 years, not 10,000 years, but eternal immortality. Xiaochen thought about the will of thunder in the Thunder King Valley, which had been circulating for 1,000 years without diminishing in might. Even a martial sage would not dare to display its sharpness. One could easily imagine how powerful the power of immortality was. Inside the courtyard, Xiaochen muttered to himself. The Sea of Lightning Saber Light is divided into 3 parts. The first part is saber images, which mainly reflect the word light. When the saber lights fill the sky, the enemy will find it hard to distinguish the real from the fake. I'm more or less done with this part. The second part is the Sea of Lightning formed from the will. I still need some time to merge the will of immortality into it. The last move is unpredictable. As the essence of this move, the seniors have already perfected it to the point where it can't be any more perfected. I don't need to think of any other way. Actually, this move could already be said to be perfect. It was definitely not inferior to the original version. It was just that Xiaochen was nitpicking, using his own characteristics to make it even stronger. 10 days later, after executing the Sea of Lightning Saber Light thousands of times in the courtyard, Xiaochen finally comprehended something. Xiao Chun leaped into the courtyard. The instant the saber light lit up, he swung his saber 7 times. Each saber strike split into 7 strands of saber light. It formed 49 saber lights, which were hard to distinguish between real and fake. It was twice as many as before. In an instant, the saber lights in the courtyard flickered incessantly. Every strand of electric saber light was as dazzling and resplendent as the resplendent sun, dazzling everyone's eyes. However, in just an instant, the saber light vanished without a trace. This made everyone doubt the authenticity of that resplendent saber light. In the next moment, a sea of lightning suddenly formed in the air. The sea of lightning wasn't vast, but it emanated an eternal and indestructible aura that made it even more difficult to break through. Xiao. The sea of lightning vanished, and a strand of saber light leaped out. Aside from its startlingly fast speed, it also had an unfathomable trajectory. The greatest difference between this saber strike and the previous one was that it continued the immortal aura of the Sea of Lightning. It vaguely felt like that strand of saber light had existed for hundreds or even thousands of years, giving off a vast and ancient aura. This saber light gained the air of a great master, sublimating this martial technique. Boundless saber images, immortal Sea of Lightning, mysterious saber light. Xiao Chun completed the 3 steps in one go, feeling boundless joy in his heart. A smile involuntarily appeared on Xiao Chun's face. He sheathed his saber and muttered, "I finally succeeded. In the future, this saber strike will be called Ghostly Image Chop, the immortal ghostly image chop that belongs to me, Xiao Chun." Perfecting the Sea of Lightning saber light into the ghostly image chop was sufficient to raise Xiao Chun's strength by 20%. Now this move finally had some of the might of a heaven-ranked martial technique. The senior in the Sage Lamp once said that the might of this move would continuously increase as one's strength increased until it reached its peak. When executed, the sky would be filled with thousands of 3-kilometer-long sword lights. The sea of fire they formed could burn half the sky. The might of one sword strike could tear through the sky. Xiao Chun was fascinated by this. After spending so many days on this move, he had not wasted any of it. After another 5 days, Xiao Chun's peak late-stage inferior grade martial monarch cultivation had reached a bottleneck after enjoying a spirit vein's origin alone. He could no longer advance any further. 99 drops of purple quintessence liquid floated above Xiao Chun's dantian. They glowed with a heavy light. Xiao Chun's cultivation was vast and dense. Xiao Chun tried a few times, but he could clearly feel a formless barrier blocking him. Amidst the softness of the barrier, there was an extremely strong tenacity. It would be extremely difficult to break it. After checking a few times, Xiao Chun frowned slightly and said, "The 10 medial-grade spirit gathering pearls from the top contribution are probably not enough." Given this, Xiao Chun needed to gather enough medial-grade spirit gathering pearls to break through the bottleneck. Forget it. I should go and collect my stipend first. At most, I will take on a few more 3,000-point missions. It will just take some time. Since he could collect his stipend today, Xiao Chun washed up and tidied up his clothes before leaving. Along the way, Xiao Chun ran into several inner sect disciples. When they saw Xiao Chun, they immediately moved far away. Fear appeared in their eyes. Half a month ago, Xiao Chun fought with the leaders of the 5 factions of the inner sect and defeated all 5 of them by himself. Then he forcefully defeated Situ Gang, who sneak attacked him. Xiao Chun's fame in the inner sect was unparalleled, catching up to the mysterious Yin Feiyu. Back then, Xiao Chun had been very decisive and merciless. He had broken the arms of 5 people without any hesitation. Recently, there was news that Xiao Chun had pushed Yin Feiyu off the contribution ranking, pushing him into the eye of the storm. Many people were guessing when Xiao Chun and Yin Feiyu would have a match. Like Xiao Chun, the inner sect's Yin Feiyu always acted alone. However, no one dared to seek trouble for him. This was because Yu Jiqiang and the other 4 had suffered at his hands as well. Normally, the 2 of them did not like to flaunt their personalities. However, they were both proud and unwilling to admit defeat. As the saying went, one mountain cannot hold 2 tigers. A fight between the 2 of them was necessary and inevitable. There could only be one top disciple in the inner sect. When Xiao Chun saw the evasive gazes around him, he was already used to it. He did not bother with the whispers of these people. When Xiao Chen entered the vast hall where he collected his stipend, he saw many people moving around. Inner sect disciples waiting to collect their stipend were everywhere. When Xiao Chen saw a corner, he casually walked over. As he walked, he brushed past a blue-robed swordsman. After passing each other by a few body lengths, the two stopped and sensed something extraordinary about each other. Then they turned around at the same time. Xiao Chen looked at this person. The blue-robed swordsman was of medium build and very skinny. He had a stern face, thin lips, and sharp eyebrows that looked like they were carved. He looked very neat and tidy. In his black eyes, there was a powerful sword intent that was hidden like a waterfall. With just a glance, the terrifying sword intent would burst forth. This person's cultivation had reached early-stage superior-grade martial monarch, putting a faint pressure on Xiao Chen. Subconsciously, Xiao Chen compared this person to the true inheritor Chen Xiao, whom he had met before. He discovered that this person was not much weaker than Chen Xiao. He was extremely strong. Who in the inner sect could have such a cultivation to put such pressure on Xiao Chen? The answer was obvious. Aside from Yun Feiyu, it could not be anyone else. As Xiao Chen sized up Yun Feiyu, the other party sized him up as well. In the end, Yun Feiyu revealed a disdainful smile and said, "White-robed bladesman Xiao Chen. Not bad. I finally meet you today." Xiao. Right after Yun Feiyu spoke, the sword intent in his eyes became like two sharp blades shooting at Xiao Chen. The sword intent buzzed in the air, giving off a resonant, pleasing sound. Xiao Chen's gaze sank, and the saber intent in his eyes clashed without fear. His perfect 60% comprehended saber intent also turned into an incredibly sharp blade as he looked at Yun Feiyu. Dang, dang, dang. Two melodious clangs resounded in the air. It was like real weapons clashing intensely in the air. As the two clashed, a strong wind blew in the hall, causing their clothes to flutter continuously. The strong sword intent and saber intent in the wind spread out. The weapons of the disciples waiting to receive their stipend in the hall all trembled at the same time. A few disciples did not manage to hold on to their swords or sabers in time. Their weapons flew out of their scabbards and flew around the hall. Such a scene immediately attracted everyone's attention to Yun Feiyu and Xiao Chen. The two of them really clashed. I knew it. They would definitely fight. Xiao Chen is really strong. Even when facing Yun Feiyu's 70% comprehended sword intent, he did not give way at all. Excitement immediately appeared on everyone's faces. When they saw that Xiao Chen did not immediately fall into a disadvantage, they were even more astonished. However, even so, they were filled with anticipation for the match between the two. If Xiao Chen lost right from the start, there would be no fun at all. A strange light flashed in Yun Feiyu's eyes. It was not convenient for him to get serious in the hall, so he withdrew his sword intent. The corners of his lips curled up as he said indifferently, "A perfect 60% comprehended saber intent. No wonder you have the confidence to compete with me. However, this is not enough. You're on your own. Don't do something that you will regret for the rest of your life." After Yun Feiyu spoke, he did not wait for Xiao Chen to reply. He turned around and headed for the hall. From the start to the end, Yun Feiyu did not truly care about Xiao Chen. After probing Xiao Chen, he felt that it was beneath him to speak too much. As Xiao Chen watched Yun Feiyu leave, his expression turned grave. Yun Feiyu was indeed as the rumors said. His heart was higher than the sky, and he considered everyone beneath him. Looking into the distance, Xiao Chen discovered 4 people waiting for Yun Feiyu outside the hall. These 4 people had stern expressions, looking aloof and aloof. No one dared to get within 100 meters of them. When they saw them from afar, they all bowed respectfully and greeted them. Based on their medallions, they were all true inheritors. Seeing Yun Feiyu arrive, the 4 lowered their statuses and politely chatted with him for a while before heading off into the distance. Yun Feiyu truly lives up to his name. Even the true inheritors, senior brother Hua, are so polite to him. When the disciples in the hall saw this scene, they all revealed envious expressions. When they looked at Xiao Chen, they all felt that although Xiao Chen was currently in the limelight, he was still far from comparable to Yun Feiyu. Chapter 681. As for Xiao Chun, he was thinking about something else. Yin Feiyu had suddenly rushed back to the sect last month because he was summoned by the true inheritors. Xiao Chun did not know if this matter was related to Yin Feiyu's decision to give up a 3,000 contribution point mission and give up the first rank. There had to be a huge benefit hidden in this. Unfortunately, Xiao Chun was alone. No matter how curious he was, he could not interfere with the matters of the true inheritors. High in the sky outside the hall, the other 4 true inheritors of the Haoyin sect watched Yin Feiyu's group leave. Their expressions turned grave. Of these 4, Xiao Chun recognized 2, Chun Xiao and Wang Cheng. Chun Xiao had some friendship with Xiao Chun. Wang Cheng looked at a black-clad youth on his right and said, "Senior brother Hu, it looks like Hua Tianhu and the others really went to find Yin Feiyu. We are in danger now." The black-clad man with the family name Hu sighed softly. With Yin Feiyu's strength, he fully deserves to be the strongest in the inner sect. He will become a true inheritor in at most 1 year. With his help, the balance between us and Hua Tianhu will be broken. Why don't we find one of the inner disciples as well? The only delicate woman among the 4 said softly. The black-clad man smiled bitterly and said, "Easier said than done. We are going to kill a peak rank 8 spirit beast. No matter how much trash we send, they will only be sending themselves to death. They might even cause more trouble." The others thought about it and agreed. Just the aura of a peak rank 8 spirit beast could scare some people. When the time came, they would be flustered and would have to split their attention to take care of it. It was better not to send anyone. Just at this moment, Chun Xiao thought of someone. He said, "I know someone who might be able to help us. Although his cultivation is low, he has a strong physical body. Furthermore, he consumed the monarch blood grass and will not fear the aura of a peak rank 8 spirit beast." Chun Xiao's words piqued the interest of the other 3. They could not help but look at Chun Xiao. They spent most of their time exploring and cultivating. They did not know much about the inner sect disciples. Spirit gathering pearls. Spirit gathering pearls, there are still too few. Xiao Chun muttered after he received his stipend. The first rank of the contribution ranking would receive 1 million superior grade spirit stones, 100 inferior grade spirit gathering pearls, and 10 medial grade spirit gathering pearls. Superior grade spirit stones and inferior grade spirit gathering pearls would not be of much help to Xiao Chun now that his cultivation had reached a bottleneck. Compared to inferior grade spirit gathering pearls, medial grade spirit gathering pearls were much more precious. Not only did they require more spirit stones, but they also exhausted a martial sage's origin energy. Regular martial sages no longer had the strength to refine medial grade spirit gathering pearls. Only superior grade martial sages or peak martial sages could refine medial grade spirit gathering pearls. Superior grade martial sages and peak martial sages were considered the mainstays of a rank 9 sect. Any sect would not have too many of them. Zhao's sect disciples usually, the Chen's martial inheritor peak Zhao's Xiao would Chun sect, they was among the great martial sect of the sect mountain. Chun Yin Xiao family Chun. Yin Yin Chun. Normally, his main task was to guard the sect, maintain the stability of the Haoyin province, and prevent strong spirit beasts, loose cultivators and demonic calamities from invading. Spending time every month to refine 100 medial grade spirit gathering pearls was already very good. Not to mention the thousands of inner sect disciples, there would not even be enough for the 9 true inheritors. One could easily imagine how precious medial grade spirit gathering pearls were in the sect. If one wanted to purchase them outside the sect, they would have to pay a sky-high price. I'll fight for the first rank again. 20 medial grade spirit gathering pearls will be enough for me to make a breakthrough. A resolute look flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Even if Yin Feiyu threatened him, he would not care. He, Xiao Chun, had never feared competition. When Xiao Chun returned to his courtyard, he was surprised to see 4 figures chatting at the door. All of them had unfathomable auras. Their cultivations were incredibly strong. Even though they withdrew their auras, they could not be underestimated. Xiao Chun could tell that they were extraordinary. A strange light flashed in Xiao Chun's eyes as he walked over to the 4. Then he performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Xiao Chun greets senior brothers." This was the etiquette of the sect. When one met a true inheritor, one had to show respect. According to the rules, one had to not only perform a cupped fist salute, but also bow to show respect. Xiao Chen felt proud in his heart. Although the four were stronger than him, they had not reached the point where he had to bow. When Wang Cheng saw Xiao Chen's appearance, a brilliant light flashed in his eyes. He smiled and said, "Junior brother Chen, you kept us in suspense. So, you are talking about him." 2 months ago, Wang Cheng had met Xiao Chen once. At that time, Xiao Chen had been an early-stage inferior grade martial monarch. Furthermore, his quintessence had been extremely unstable, not dense at all. The only thing that Wang Cheng remembered was the strength of Xiao Chen's physical body. Xiao Chen had been able to clash head-on with the Battle Realm Situ Gang. However, that was all. Xiao Chen's improvement in cultivation was not very impressive. The spiritual energy of the Kunlun realm was abundant, and he had the spirit-gathering pearls to break through the bottleneck of martial monarch. Logically speaking, a regular genius would be able to advance to medial-grade martial monarch in 2 months. However, Xiao Chen was only an inferior-grade martial monarch. It could only be said that Xiao Chen's talent in cultivation was not high. Hence, Wang Cheng did not think much of Xiao Chen. He shook his head slightly and did not say anything more. The only azure-clad girl among the four also frowned slightly. She said, "Junior brother Chen, even if this person consumed the monarch bloodgrass and half a drop of dragon marrow, his cultivation is still too weak. He probably cannot break the defense of a peak rank 8 spirit beast." However, the black-clad youth leading the group stared at Xiao Chen in silence. A spiritual light flickered in his pitch-black eyes as if he had discovered something, but did not dare to be too sure. Xiao Chen felt somewhat confused when he heard this. What peak rank 8 spirit beast? What low cultivation? What none of this had anything to do with him. Since the other party did not say anything, Xiao Chen did not ask. He only waited calmly for them to continue. Suddenly, the black-clad youth, who had been silent for a long time, said, "Xiao Chen, if I am not wrong, you refined your quintessence twice when you were an inferior-grade martial monarch, right?" The moment the black-clad youth said this, the other three were startled. They sized up Xiao Chen once more, their gazes filled with disbelief. If Xiao Chen refined his quintessence once before consuming the quintessence-gathering pill, he would experience a heart-wrenching pain that could kill him. Since ancient times, there had been many people who had dared to refine their quintessence twice. However, those who could endure it were few and far between. Furthermore, their accomplishments were resplendent, becoming heroes throughout the ages. Since the other party could tell, Xiao Chen had no reason to deny it. He nodded gently in acknowledgement. "Indeed." The black-clad youth smiled faintly and said, "In that case, your cultivation should be equal to that of a peak medial-grade martial monarch. Adding in your physical body, you should be able to hold your own against a superior-grade martial monarch." Wang Cheng revealed some doubt in his eyes. He still did not believe it. He asked, "Junior brother Xiao, do you mind if I test you?" The black-clad youth entered deep thought. Then he nodded and said, "Junior brother Xiao, if you can receive one move from Wang Cheng, we will give you a great opportunity." Xiao Chen already had his cultivation and physical body. However, no matter what, how much strength he could bring out was the key. Chen Xiao, who was among the four, also winked at Xiao Chen, indicating that he should make good use of this opportunity. Regardless of whether this was an opportunity or not, Xiao Chen was prepared to deal with the next palm strike seriously. Xiao Chen had heard of the fame of the true inheritors for a long time. He had long wanted to fight them. "Junior brother Xiao, I will only use 30% of my strength for this palm strike. As long as you do not get knocked back, consider it as you receiving it," Wang Cheng said seriously as he looked at Xiao Chen. Wang Cheng was a late-stage superior-grade martial monarch. He had consumed the quintessence-gathering pill 3 times before. Furthermore, they were all expensive superior-grade quintessence-gathering pills. After refining his quintessence 3 times, it had reached an extremely sharp level. The thickness of his quintessence was even more terrifying. Even if Wang Cheng used only 30% of his strength, the quintessence he brought out would be equal to that of a medial-grade martial monarch. However, Wang Cheng's requirements were not high. As long as he did not get knocked back, it would be fine. That was to say, being knocked back a few steps was still acceptable. Xiaochen felt some anticipation in his heart. He nodded with a grave expression and said, "Senior brother Wang, make your move." Coming. Wang Qing did not seem to go through any process of storing up energy or condensing qi. He casually waved his hand, and his aura erupted. His palm released a jade-like glow. Wang Qing moved like an arrow as he tore through the air in front of him. Two strong winds blew, causing Xiaochen's face to hurt. His clothes also flapped noisily. Wang Qing moved as fast as lightning. In half a breath he arrived before Xiaochen. His jade-like right palm smashed toward Xiaochen's chest. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Xiaochen quickly made a decision. He gave up on purely defending and took a step forward, merging his quintessence and vital qi. To everyone's astonishment, Xiaochen sent out a similar palm strike. The black-clad youth and the other two were surprised. They had not expected Xiaochen to be so bold. Instead of defending Wang Qing, he chose to attack. Boom! When the two palms clashed, a loud sound rang out. 100-meter-wide pit appeared under the two's feet. The other three quickly dodged to the side. A horrifying force burst out from Wang Cheng's palm, forming a visible primal chaos shock wave that knocked Xiaochen back. However, the matter was not over yet. The true inheritor, Wang Qing, was also sent flying like an arrow. The shock wave knocked him back 100 meters before he landed heavily on the ground. Wang Cheng's qi and blood surged as he circulated his quintessence with all his might. The quintessence in his meridians surged like a river, surging endlessly. It suppressed the quintessence and vital qi that rushed into his body. Xiaochen was in a somewhat sorry state. He flew back 100 meters. When he landed, he could not suppress the quintessence in his body, so he vomited a mouthful of blood. However, Xiaochen's physical body was very tough. Wang Qing did not use any techniques in this palm strike, nor did he try to kill Xiaochen. Hence, it could only be considered a minor injury. Chen Xiao smiled faintly and said, "Senior brother Hu, how do we count this?" Both of them were sent flying. The black-clad youth appeared very heroic. He laughed loudly and said, "How do we count this? You can ask Wang Qing. Look at how embarrassed he is to say that he won." Wang Qing immediately felt embarrassed. An inferior-grade martial monarch had sent a bona fide true inheritor flying. Although Wang Qing had only used 30% of his strength, he had already embarrassed himself greatly. Wang Qing smiled bitterly and said, "Stop teasing me. This is really embarrassing. However, we have indeed picked up a treasure." The green-clad girl also had a smile in her bright eyes. She looked at Xiaochen with satisfaction. The black-clad youth strode over to Xiaochen and handed him a jade bottle. He said, "There are 10 medial-grade spirit-gathering pearls in here. I will give you 1 night to advance to medial-grade martial monarch. We will come and look for you tomorrow." Chapter 682. Xiaochen could not figure out what was going on. When he saw that the four were about to leave, he quickly pulled Chen Xiao back and asked, "Senior brother Chen, what's going on?" Chen Xiao turned his head and said, "That is our senior brother Hu Hai, one of the 3 true inheritors with the authority to conscript you. Now that you have been conscripted, you have no right to refuse." Chen Xiao changed the topic and smiled. "Don't worry. If things go smoothly, this will be a fortuitous encounter for you. It will be beneficial to you." Conscription? This was not the first time Xiaochen had heard of this term. Previously, the black-robed administrator had said that Yun Feiyu had been conscripted and returned quickly. A conscription could not be refused. This also explained why Yun Feiyu gave up on the 3,000 contribution point mission and rushed back. Of the 9 true inheritors, only 3 had the authority to conscript them. Xiaochen slowly figured out the situation in his mind. Aside from the top-ranked true inheritors, Xue Lingling, who worked in the Bushan Palace, there were 2 factions. These 2 factions probably used their conscription powers for the same matter. The other faction conscripted Yun Feiyu, breaking the balance between the 2 factions. For the sake of resisting the other faction, Chen Zhao's faction conscripted Xiaochen. However, there was too little information for the 2 factions to pay so much attention to this matter. Xiaochen could not figure it out. Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. He said softly, "Could it really be for a peak rank 8 spirit beast? Otherwise, Yin Feiyu would have returned last month. He would have completed it already." A rank 8 spirit beast was equivalent to a late-stage superior grade martial monarch. If it was a king among spirit beasts, it would be even stronger. Even a peak martial monarch would not be a match for it. Only a half-sage would dare to say that they could defeat it easily. Even if Chen Xiao and the other 3 worked together, they would barely be able to do so. However, there was no point in thinking so much. Even if there was danger and Xiao Chen was conscripted, he had no right to refuse. Unless he forcibly withdrew from the Haotian sect, that was impossible. Danger often came hand in hand with opportunity. As Chen Xiao said, this might be a great fortuitous encounter for Xiao Chen. Holding the jade bottle in his right hand, Xiao Chen's eyes revealed a determined look. Since the opportunity was right in front of him, he could not afford to be timid. After returning to the cultivation room, Xiao Chen made preparations to advance to medial grade martial monarch. His foundation was firm, and his quintessence was vast and pure. As long as one had enough medial grade spirit gathering pearls and could endure the pain, breaking through the bottleneck would not be difficult. When the sun rose, Xiao Chen successfully broke through his bottleneck and advanced to medial grade martial monarch. This increase in cultivation allowed the quintessence in his body to soar. It had more than doubled, unlike the minor realms where it only increased by 20%. As the purple thunder divine incantation circulated, the spiritual energy in the spirit veins origin poured in endlessly. The feeling of being unable to advance no matter how he tried to absorb the energy disappeared without a trace. Xiao Chen opened his eyes, and a bright light shone in them. His eyes revealed a frightening gaze. His black pupils became even deeper, making them unfathomable. Xiao Chen extended out his spiritual sense, and saw that Chen Xiao and the others were already waiting outside the courtyard. He did not delay any longer, making some preparations before leaving. When the black-clad youth saw Xiao Chen's aura, he nodded to himself and smiled. "You actually managed to break through in one night. This means that your foundation is very firm. Otherwise, it would not have been so easy." The black-clothed youth who took out a black token from his sleeve and said sternly, "Let's cut to the chase. I will not beat around the bush. I am now officially recruiting you. According to the rules, you cannot refuse. However, I do not force others. If you are afraid, you can reject me. Take the spirit-gathering pearls I gave you yesterday as a sign of good karma." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not hesitate to receive the black conscription medallion. He said, "Why would I reject you? This is exactly what this Xiao was looking for." The black-clad youth laughed loudly and said, "I just knew that you would not reject me. How can someone who can endure the pain of refining their quintessence twice be cowardly?" Under the Xiao Chen's gaze, Chen Xiao stepped forward and said, "Xiao Chen, now that you are a member of our team, there is no need to hide some things from you. The true inheritors have always been split into 2 factions. The 2 factions are like fire and water, constantly fighting each other. Actually, this is something the elders do on purpose. Even though we have become true inheritors, we do not dare to slack off and have to constantly compete with each other. This time, we will be competing again. The results of the competition are very important. Whoever gains the initiative will be able to follow first senior sister to the savage battlefield." The savage battlefield was the place where the ancient emperors fought. It was vast and boundless. It was originally a mysterious forbidden land with countless treasures buried in it. After the Emperor's War, the martial emperors of the various races poured their blood on it, turning it into a land of fortuitous encounters. There were all sorts of natural treasures, spirit herbs, and spirit trees that were rarely seen in the outside world. The monarch bloodgrass that Xiao Chen consumed could not even rank at the very top. Aside from this, there were several martial emperors' graves and true dragon caves. There were even several immortal sect remnants from the immortal epoch. The savage battlefield itself was a forbidden land. Furthermore, there were countless forbidden lands within the forbidden land. Even the current martial emperors could not explore them all. There were still many unknown forbidden lands waiting for the peak geniuses to explore. This was one of the few public lands of fortuitous encounters in the Kunlun realm. The importance of a fortuitous encounter to a cultivator went without saying. A genius without a fortuitous encounter, and a genius with a fortuitous encounter would instantly be far behind. There was a demonic barrier around the savage battlefield that would weaken once every 3 years. For the sake of tempering their disciples, the various sects would send their elites into the savage battlefield to seek their own fortuitous encounters. The peak young experts of the Tianwu domain would not be willing to miss out on this opportunity. Otherwise, they would be left far behind if others gained a fortuitous encounter. This is indeed a fortuitous encounter, Xiaochen thought to himself. However, he still had some doubts. He said, I can go as well. Wuhai nodded and smiled. As long as you are not afraid of taking risks, naturally you can. You are already part of our team now. Of course, this is all on the premise that we can defeat Hua Tianhe in the competition. Otherwise, it will all be for naught. The goal of the competition was set by the top true inheritor of the Haotian sect, Xue Lingling. The 2 teams would be the first to kill a peak rank 8 spirit beast. Whoever could follow her into the savage battlefield would obtain the qualifications to follow her into the savage battlefield. Xiaochen understood the ins and outs of the matter. He asked, Are we going now? Wuhai sized up Xiaochen and smiled. There is no rush. You are still lacking something. You have an early superior grade inner vest secret treasure, but that is not enough for defense. Wuhai removed his identity medallion and said to the green-clad girl, Junsi, bring him to buy 2 better shields. We will wait for you outside the city. Defensive secret treasures were rarely seen and extremely valuable. Xiaochen could not help but feel moved by this black-clad youth's generosity. First, this black-clad youth gave Xiaochen 10 medial-grade spirit-gathering pearls. Now, without even blinking, he bought 2 defensive shields for himself. The group split up for now. The green-clad girl, Junsi, led Xiaochen to the inner city. The others headed out of the city, heading to meet up when the time came. Junior brother Xiaochen, I heard from Chen Xiao that you came from a lower realm. Which realm are you from? Junsi chatted with Xiaochen in the air. Xiaochen answered honestly, the Sky Dome realm. Junsi's eyes lit up. She said, the Thunder King Sangmu's Sky Dome realm? Xiaochen was somewhat surprised. Unexpectedly, there was still someone who remembered the name of the Thunder King. Ever since he came to the Kunlun realm, everyone revealed an expression of disdain when they heard the name Sky Dome realm. Very few people were as pleasantly surprised as Junsi. Junsi smiled gently and said, Our Jun clan received great grace from the Thunder King in the past. Even now, there is a statue of the Thunder King in our clan's headquarters. Little junior brother Xiaochen, I will take care of you in the future. Tell me about the Thunder King's time in the Sky Dome realm. Xiaochen felt embarrassed in his heart. The other party looked to be about the same age as him. Such a tone made him feel somewhat uncomfortable. However, Xiaochen still told her about the Thunder King's time in the Sky Dome realm, before he became famous. There were too many legends about the Thunder King. Xiaochen only told a small part of them before the 2 arrived at the inner city. Junsi said regretfully, Tell me about it next time. I'll bring you to the auction house first. Time was tight, but Junsi was very serious about choosing. Every time she chose a shield, she would personally check it several times. After searching for a long time, she still could not find a shield that satisfied her. Junsi shook her head and said, Originally, I was planning to find 2 superior grade shields for you. However, defensive secret treasures are too rare. Without an official auction, it would be hard to find one. These are 2 peak medial grade shields. Give them a try. They might be able to save your life at a crucial moment. The 2 shields were as tall as Xiaochen. They were extremely heavy and hard. Xiaochen did not know what they were made of. Xiaochen held 1 shield in each hand. Then, he placed the 2 shields together and infused his quintessence into them. They immediately formed a sealed barrier, encasing Xiaochen inside. After feeling the thickness of the barrier, Xiaochen felt very satisfied. He said, These 2 then. I feel very good. Junsi was still not satisfied. She said, That is all we can do. Let's go. They have been waiting for a long time already. Outside the city gates, Hu Hai and the other two had been waiting for a long time already. After Xiao Chun and Xiao Chen arrived, they immediately set off. Hu Hai waved his sleeves, and a small, exquisite, black, steel warship appeared. The warship slowly enlarged, turning into a lone boat. After the four boarded the warship, four jets shot out from the back of the steel warship. They burst forth with a strong thrust and soared into the clouds in the blink of an eye. Xiao Chen sized up the steel warship and felt amazed. The style of the warship was simple, but it gave off a strong sense of security. It felt cool to the touch. Seeing Xiao Chen's curiosity, Xiao Chen smiled and said, "This is the treasure that senior brother who is proud of. It is a fragment of a magic treasure that he obtained from an immortal sect remnant. After the refiners of the Tianwu domain's fiery sect modified it, it is now equivalent to a high-ranked superior grade secret treasure." When Hu Hai, who was at the bow of the warship, heard this, he smiled faintly and said, "It is nothing. That magic treasure is already very badly damaged. After modifying it to its current state, it has lost many of its functions. Xiao Chen, let me tell you about the target of this trip. Our target is the peak rank 8 spirit beast, the Golden Savage Ox. This fellow is a bona fide tyrant of the Savage Beast Forest. It is very difficult to deal with." Xiao Chen had heard of the Savage Beast Forest before. It was an extremely vast forest, even larger than the Haotian province. It bordered the nearby provinces. In the northernmost part of the Savage Beast Forest, after passing through a few cities, one would arrive at the Fiend Domain, which bordered the Tianwu Domain. That was the territory of the Fiend race, and the borders were rather chaotic. Chapter 683. The Savage Beast Forest was once famous for its savage beasts. Savage beasts were creatures unique to the ancient era. They were known for their strength and defense. Even a regular emperor, Wu, would not be able to deal with a strong savage beast. They were as tall as small mountains. As they ran, they could shake heaven and earth. Their roars could shatter the clouds, and the sound waves could shatter one's internal organs. However, even now, savage beasts were nowhere to be seen. In the long river of history, savage beasts had already vanished. Only some spirit beasts still had the bloodline of savage beasts. They were much stronger than regular spirit beasts, comparable to king spirit beasts of the same rank. The number of spirit beasts with the bloodline of savage beasts in the Savage Beast Forest was more than anywhere else. Even today, people still habitually referred to it as the Savage Beast Forest. The Golden Savage Ox that Hu Hai and the others wanted to kill was such a spirit beast with the bloodline of a savage beast. In the past month, they had gone in 5 times but returned in failure. This was because the defense of this Golden Savage Ox was simply too strong. When it went berserk, its strength was even more frightening. Just a light strike from it could injure one's tendons and bones. Hu Hai continued, "Xiao Chen, we called you here mainly to help us pin down this Golden Savage Ox, so that we can attack it more easily. This is because your physical body is stronger than all of ours combined. Your endurance far surpasses ours as well." Xiao Chen smiled bitterly to himself. No wonder Hu Hai gave him 10 medial-grade spirit-gathering pearls, and spent so much money to buy a shield for him. It turned out that there was such a dangerous mission for him. This thing is not easy to carry, Xiao Chen thought to himself. Jun Si said, "Xiao Chen, don't overthink this. We will help you and not put too much pressure on you." Hu Hai nodded and said, "Do your best." Half a month ago, Yun Feiyu joined Hua Tianhe's group. They will definitely advance faster than us. It was clear that Hu Hai and the others were under a lot of pressure. They had high hopes for Xiao Chen. For hours later, the Savage Beast Forest appeared before their eyes. Many cultivators of various cultivations could be seen at the entrance of the forest. There was a simple bazaar outside the forest. A large number of merchants went there to facilitate transactions for the adventuring cultivators. "Let's go down. There are many bird-type spirit beasts in the Savage Beast Forest. It is not easy to fly." Hu Hai gently shook his sleeve, and the steel warship quickly shrank, entering his sleeve. It was a miraculous sight. The 5 of them executed their respective movement techniques and landed firmly on the ground. When the people in the market saw the medallions on the 5 of them, they all had respectful expressions. In this area, the reputation of the Haotian sect was extremely useful. It was enough to deter those who wanted to fish in troubled waters. Senior brother who, we're going to kill a golden savage bull again. Don't return empty-handed this time. Just as Xiao Chen's group was about to enter the forest, the footsteps of a group of uninvited guests came from behind. Xiao Chen turned around and saw that it was the other 4 true disciples of the Haotian sect. Yin Feiyu was among them. The person who spoke was dressed in a blue and white robe. His eyes shone with a reserved light, and as he spoke, a lofty aura emanated from him. His arrogance was not a deliberate act, but a natural result of his daily accumulation and the contrast of his strength. Rage flashed in Hu Hai's eyes. Clearly, he had a grudge with this person for a long time. He said coldly, Hua Tianhe, just take care of yourself. The spirit flame monkey you want to kill is not that easy to deal with. Hua Tianhe smiled faintly and said, there is no need for you to worry. We already chopped off the left arm of this spirit flame monkey. This time, we will collect its head. The moment Hua Tianhe said that, the expressions of Chen Xiao and the others changed slightly. They had already expected that Hua Tianhe's progress would be faster than theirs. However, they had not expected it to be this much faster. Now that these 5 were ready to go, they were probably going to kill the spirit flame monkey. The victor is not decided yet. It is hard to say. Hua Tianhe, wait until you chop off the monkey head and hand it to first senior sister. Then come and mock me. Hu Hai did not want to say anything more. He looked coldly at Hua Tianhe before leading the 4 away. Hua Tianhe kept his gaze on Xiao Chen's back. After a long time he said, that brat is a little strange. Junior brother Yan, follow them from afar. If anything happens, you know what to do. The person addressed as junior brother Yan frowned and said, Senior brother Hua, you overestimate that person. He is just a medial grade martial monarch. Any one of us can easily crush him. Hua Tianhe shook his head and said, this fellow is also a body cultivator. I do not want anything unexpected to happen to him. The savage battlefield is too important to us. However, if I go, what will happen to the spirit flame monkey? Hua Tianhe said, don't worry. After losing its left arm, the spirit flame monkey will no longer be able to be the monkey king. Now it is alone. In terms of combat prowess, it is no longer a match for us. Instead, its speed is a headache. Towering trees could be found everywhere. As they walked through the savage beast forest, they felt insignificant for some reason. Chen Xiao handed Xiao Chen a bottle of medicinal powder and said, rub it on your clothes. It can prevent you from being discovered by some low-ranked spirit beasts. We are in a rush. As the group advanced, the atmosphere was somewhat gloomy. Clearly, Hua Tianhe's words made them anxious. When Hu Hai saw the situation, he smiled and said, don't overthink things. The greatest characteristic of the spirit flame monkey is its speed. Now that it has lost an arm and is focused on fleeing, it will be even more of a headache. It will not be much faster than us. If we can succeed in one go and kill the golden savage ox, we will definitely be able to overtake them. Hu Hai's words filled the group with fighting spirit once more. The group moved even faster, advancing quickly through the small paths in the forest. Roar! A berserk beast roared. 500 meters in front, a 10-meter-tall spirit beast with 4 strong limbs and a ferocious aura covered in black scales appeared before the group. Chen Xiao frowned and said, it is a peak rank 7 spirit beast. The medicinal powder is useless against it. We have to get rid of it. Let me do it. Hu Hai stopped Chen Xiao, who was about to make a move. Then he took out a huge axe from his spatial ring and walked over to the scaled tiger with a sullen expression. When the scaled tiger saw Hu Hai holding the huge axe, it opened its mouth and roared again. The roar formed a berserk wind, kicking up all the dust and fallen leaves on the ground. As the dust and pebbles flew, the scaled tiger moved its limbs. So. Sonic booms resounded in the air. The wind brought dust and fallen leaves, and the armored tiger's figure was hidden in it. Hu Hai narrowed his eyes and did not move. It was like he did not know danger was approaching. He did not even release his aura to intimidate the scaled tiger. Suddenly, the scaled tiger pierced through the dust like lightning and appeared above Hu Hai's head. It opened its jaws wide, preparing to bite down. From the back, it looked like as long as the scaled tiger closed its jaws, Hu Hai's head would explode in an instant. The scene would be extremely bloody. However, the other three did not show any signs of worry. They were extremely confident in Hu Hai's strength. Xiaochen did not believe that Hu Hai would die just like that, either, so he watched carefully. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Hu Hai's body tilted back slightly and fell to the ground. This was a very simple action, but it effectively dodged the scaled tiger's attack. Kasie. The scaled tiger opened and closed its jaws, but it only bit down on air. It was enraged, so it turned around in the air, wanting to turn around and launch another attack. However, just at this moment, Hu Hai, who was about to touch the ground, bounced back up with a xiao sound. Hu Hai's aura burst forth, and his quintessence surged, kicking up a boundless strong wind. He held the huge axe with both hands and roared as he swung it upwards. Pooh! Blood splattered. By the time Hu Hai stood up again, the scaled tiger's body had been chopped in half at the waist. The horrifying quintessence attached to the axe scattered, turning the remaining two halves of the scale into a mangled mess of flesh and blood flying in the air. Hu Hai did not care about the black beast's blood landing on his clothes. He put away the huge axe and said, "Let's go." Xiaochen's pupils constricted. Hu Hai's horrifying burst earlier made him feel fear from the bottom of his heart. Xiaochen simulated it in his mind. If he had to face it head-on, he would not be able to endure it. A true inheritor who could issue the conscription order could not be underestimated. Along the way, Hu Hai dealt with all the strong spirit beasts that blocked the way. This greatly increased the group's speed. 5 days later, the group stopped in front of a gourd-shaped valley. The surroundings for 5 kilometers around the valley were extremely quiet. There were no signs of any spirit beasts. Hu Hai did not say anything. He led the 4 to the high ground on both sides of the valley. When Xiaochen looked down, he finally saw the true body of their target. In the middle of the valley, which had an area of thousands of hectares, lay a huge creature. Its body was like a small hill, and it was 20 meters tall. A sharp horn protruded from its head, and its body was covered in golden fur. An ancient aura emanated from its body. At this moment, this golden savage ox lay comfortably on the ground. That was to say, if it stood up, its size would double. Xiaochen was flabbergasted. This big fellow could crush a martial monarch with just its size. No wonder Hu Hai and the others returned empty-handed. Before Xiaochen could recover his wits, Hu Hai said sullenly, "Xiaochen, jump down and hold it back." When Xiaochen heard this, he was slightly stunned. He wondered if Hu Hai had said something wrong. Jumping down to disturb the golden savage ox? Was there something wrong? When Xiaochen turned his head, he saw the other 3 looking at him with the same expression. Xiaochen's heart sank. He was certain that the other party was not joking. He no longer hesitated and gently leaped towards the golden savage ox. "Senior brother Hu, can Xiaochen do it?" Junsi asked worriedly as she watched Xiaochen descend from the sky. A bright gleam appeared in Hu Hai's eyes. He said, "It will depend on his luck. If he wants to make an exception and follow us to the savage battlefield, he will have to bring out a corresponding strength. Otherwise, he will not get any benefits." He returned empty-handed 5 times. However, he finally figured out the golden savage ox's weakness. As long as he can last 2 rounds, he will attract the golden savage ox's attention. With your assistance, I am confident of killing this golden savage ox with 1 strike. The 4 focused their gazes on Xiaochen, placing high hopes on him. He was someone who could knock the capital flying as an inferior-grade martial monarch. They could not let him down. As the distance between them decreased, Xiaochen slowly calmed down. This was the most dangerous time since he came to the Kunlun realm. Chapter 684. If Xiaochen was careless, he might die on the spot. His life's ideals and pride would all turn to dust. All his hard work over the past few years would be for naught. "I absolutely cannot fall here." Xiaochen revealed a resolute expression. He circulated all the quintessence in his body, and his mind reached a highly ethereal state. The sleeping golden savage ox's vigilance did not weaken at all. When Xiaochen landed 200 meters above it, it immediately sensed him. The golden savage ox's perked up ears twitched slightly, and it opened its eyes. When it saw the hazy figure in its vision, all its sleepiness vanished. Who? The golden savage ox spat out a mouthful of turbid chi, which turned into a berserk turbulence. Its 4 thick legs protruded, and it stood up. The golden savage ox, which was already like a hill, grew another 20 meters, looking even more horrifying. A boundless pressure surged toward Xiaochen in the air. The ancient savage chi combined with the ferocious aura of a peak rank 8 spirit beast pressed down on Xiaochen like a small mountain. Xiaochen did not panic. He activated the energy of the monarch bloodgrass in his bloodline. A trace of the ancient sovereign's aura surged out, and clashed with the surging aura. Bang! In the invisible void, there was a loud muffled sound. The power of the 2 auras suddenly exploded, and in the spacious valley, there was a strong gust of wind. The 4 people on the cliff stared at Xiaochen, waiting for Xiaochen's next performance. If he could not even last one exchange, then all their efforts would have been in vain. Seeing that Xiaochen had disturbed its sleep, and even dared to clash with its aura, the golden savage ox became thoroughly enraged. It pushed off the ground, and its huge body shot up. The golden savage ox's huge body looked like a small mountain suddenly flying up. It looked very strange. Furthermore, the speed of this small mountain was astonishingly fast, surpassing everyone's expectations. Xiaochen's expression sank. He knew that he could not dodge this golden savage ox's attack. He needed to thoroughly enrage this golden savage ox before he could create an opportunity for Hu Hai and the others. Berserk Dragon Fist. The vital chi in his body surged as Xiaochen roared furiously. He clenched his right hand into a fist, and the blood in his body surged as a green dragon head formed. He did not dodge the charging golden savage ox. Instead, he punched the golden savage ox's head. Bang! The dragon's head roared. Xiaochen's punch felt like it had struck a mountain made of cold iron. It was heavy and solid, unshakable. Blood leaked out of the corner of Xiaochen's lips. The golden savage ox instantly sent him flying. A huge force surged into his body. His entire arm felt numb, and he lost all feeling. Xiaochen's internal organs, heart, liver, gallbladder, kidneys, and spleen, were constantly being battered by a torrential force, causing him great pain. Such a horrifying strike aroused Xiaochen's bloodlust. Xiaochen somersaulted in the air, and looked at the golden savage ox flying at him again. Xiaochen's body sank down as he swung his numb right hand. Then he executed the berserk dragon claw, and charged at the golden savage ox without dodging. Chi. The azure-colored dragon claw left 5 wounds on the golden savage ox's face. Blood immediately flowed out. Good. When the 4 people on the cliff saw that not only was Xiaochen fine, but he even managed to injure the golden savage ox, they all cheered in their hearts. Hu Hai said sullenly, "Prepare to make a move. This time, we will do our best to subdue this old ox." The golden savage ox was enraged. It turned around and retracted its 10-meter-long front hoof, flicking it at Xiaochen. If the golden savage ox struck him, he would be severely injured even if he did not die. Xiaochen did not dare to receive it head-on. The acupoints on the soles of Xiaochen's feet opened up. In that instant, his figure flashed and brushed past the ox hoof. As the ox hoof flicked through the void, ripples visible to the naked eye spread out rapidly in all directions. Bang! When the ripples spread out, there was no way to dodge. Xiaochen quickly took out 2 shields and infused his quintessence into them, forming a sealed space. Huchi! When the ripples struck the shields, Xiaochen flew back like a cannonball. He crashed into the cliff of the valley and sank deep into it. Just the ripples were already so mighty. If Xiaochen really got hit by the ox hoof, the consequences would be dire. Attack. At this moment, the golden savage ox was completely distracted by Xiaochen. This was a good opportunity to attack. Hu Hai shouted and leaped out first. The axe gave off a cold light. Hu Hai had a ferocious look in his eyes, and his berserk aura was like that of a raging wild beast. The other 3 did not give way either. They all grasped their weapons and circulated their quintessence, chopping at the golden savage ox without holding anything back. The 4 strong auras caused the air in the valley to surge continuously. As the quintessence flowed, It formed strong winds that kicked up a boundless cloud of dust. The golden savage ox focused all its attention on Xiao Chun, preparing to deal a fatal blow to Xiao Chun, using its horns to ram him into the cliff. It did not expect there to be an ambush. Dang, 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 dang. The weapon struck the middle of the golden savage bull's spine, producing metallic clangs that rang out incessantly. However, aside from Hu Hai's axe, which left a horrifying wound on the golden savage ox's body, the other three only left shallow wounds that were practically negligible. Hu Hai's expression changed when he saw the blood flowing out of the golden savage ox's wounds. He said, "Oh no, this is not the golden savage ox's fatal weakness. Let's leave quickly." However, it was too late to leave now. The golden savage ox roared miserably in pain, making everyone's hearts tremble. Pa! The golden savage ox swung its long tail ferociously. It carried more than 1,000,000 kilograms of force, causing the air to tremble. Chen Xiao could not dodge in time and was sent flying. Chen Xiao vomited a mouthful of blood. A deep whip mark appeared on the inner vest on his chest. The force from the whip immediately broke a few of his ribs. The golden savage ox turned around in the air and thrust its horn forward. This strike, which could smash apart a mountain, looked like it was about to strike Hu Hai. Hu Hai's expression turned grave. At the moment of life and death, he held his axe horizontally in front of his chest. His quintessence surged and formed a tough 2-centimeter thick barrier. Cassier. The ox horn easily tore through the barrier and struck the axe. Sparks flew everywhere, and the force knocked the axe out of Hu Hai's hand. Then the axe flew into the air. Hu Hai's error in judgment and instantaneous counterattack threw the situation into chaos. The four were exposed to the attack range of the raging golden savage ox, and they were in grave danger. If they failed to kill the golden savage ox, they might even lose their lives. On a towering tree in the distance, the cultivator with the family name Yen revealed a smile when he saw this scene. He said, "It looks like there is no need for me to make a move. They will fail again this time." Xiao. Just at this moment, the clouds in the sky suddenly changed. An azure light shone in the valley, covering the entire mountain range. The cultivator with the family name Yan's expression changed slightly. He turned his head to look, and saw that the white-robed bladesman that he did not think much of had squeezed out of the cliff and punched at the golden savage ox from a distance. Burning the heavens. An ancient blue dragon galloped in the boundless azure clouds. It roared ferociously, carrying the might of heaven as it punched furiously. A huge dragon claw clenched and tore through the clouds, descending from the sky and smashing into the golden savage ox's back. An earth-shaking sound reverberated in the vast valley for a long time. The golden savage ox's hill-sized figure landed on the ground with a loud bang. Xiao Chun smashed down the 50,000-kilogram golden savage ox with one punch, causing the ground to tremble and the sky to shake. The cultivator with the family name Yen gaped slightly. He had not expected that the white-robed bladesman, whom he did not think much of, would be able to turn the tide with one punch from a distance. The golden savage ox's huge body weighed more than 50 kilograms. When Xiao Chun punched it, it fell from the sky. After the golden savage ox fell to the ground, it tumbled a few times. The entire valley shook continuously, and rocks fell from the cliffs. The golden savage ox's forelimbs bounced off the ground, and its seemingly cumbersome body nimbly stood up. When the golden savage ox saw Xiao Chun standing on the cliff, its eyes spewed fire. It was enraged. As an overlord of a region, an insignificant human had actually knocked it into the air. It had never suffered such a setback before. Thump! The golden savage ox stomped on the ground with its front limbs, and more than 1,000,000 kilograms of force exploded out. Countless cracks appeared on the ground out of thin air. The cracks slowly grew larger, and soon turned into deep ravines. The golden savage ox's swollen golden eyes locked firmly on Xiao Chun. It roared ferociously and lifted its front legs high into the air. Then it stomped on the ground with its hind legs. Xiao! The golden savage ox's huge body shot through the air like an arrow leaving a bow. It was unbelievably fast. The friction between the golden savage ox's huge body and the air gave off thunderous sonic booms that soared into the clouds. The clouds in the sky parted, and the sun shone down. Under the illumination of the intense light, the golden savage ox's golden fur gave off a resplendent light. It looked like an ancient savage beast, its aura shaking the sky and the ground. Xiao Chen showed a slightly startled expression, but he did not panic. Dragon roars resounded in his body. The trace of an ancient sovereign's aura clashed with the golden savage ox's aura, preventing the golden savage ox's aura from affecting the circulation of his quintessence. A blue dragon appeared under the golden savage ox's feet. In the time it took for a spark to fly, it carried Xiao Chen up into the sky. Boom! The moment the golden savage ox retreated, a loud rumble came from the cliff where Xiao Chen had been standing. When the golden savage ox rammed into it, the entire cliff crumbled. Rocks tumbled down like a gushing river. Xiao Chen felt startled. If he had retreated any later, no matter how strong his physical body was, he would have been smashed into bits. After its first attack failed, the golden savage ox soared into the sky again from the pile of mud. Its 4 hooves gave off golden flames as it ran through the air. Every step of the hoof, which was surrounded by golden flames, seemed to shatter the void as it trembled non-stop. Its speed also doubled in an instant. Flames of rage burned in the golden savage ox's golden eyes. For the sake of killing Xiao Chen, this golden savage ox was truly enraged. Another 2 dragon roars resounded. 2 more blue dragons appeared around Xiao Chen, and he moved like the wind. Xiao Chen moved in a strange arc, dodging the golden savage ox's attack. Then he arrived at the golden savage ox's side and punched it again. Xiao Chen did not put much force into the punch, so it did not hurt or itch the golden savage ox. However, when the golden savage ox saw the slippery Xiao Chen toying with it, the rage in its heart burned even stronger. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.